I'd like to welcome Adam into the room and give him an opportunity if he likes to step up to the plate and join me in a conversation. I'd love to have him maybe get his thoughts. I know he was in the room when we were doing the show over at Pandemonium with Smooch Panda. I don't want to put him on the spot, but hey, how often do you get Adam Gingrich in your room, right? You just have to ask him. 33 Rule is joined. 33 Rule, the legend, is joined. I'd like to invite him to come up if you'd like to have a quick chat. Oh, Adam has decided he's going to join in. That's great. He'll be on in 4 seconds. We got room for one more if you'd like to come up. 33. How you doing, Adam?
Hey, I'm doing okay. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm still a little bit sick, but I had a great time with Smooch tonight.
Yeah, I couldn't hear. I had to go to my buddy's annual national championship basketball game party. So I just saw that you guys were on. I wanted to share it out, but unfortunately, I couldn't see anything but the comments there. So I had to watch the replay on that one. I wanted to catch that.
Hey, bros before scopes, right? That's what I say.
Yeah,
Yeah, I had a
annual.
great time. He's a good guy. Oh,
Yeah,
you got
not you got some buffering, but not too much from what I could see.
okay. Oh, from the show, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
kind
you
of hard
gotta
for me
have.
to tell what's going on live, but it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
How you doing? It's Peter Chris of Kiss, everybody.
What's up, guys? Good evening. How are you? What's up, Adam?
What's up there, former 33? I don't even know what to call you anymore, man.
33 Rule, the legend.
There you
He's
go.
the
I don't want to trigger any investigations by Periscope.
he's a
No,
legend.
listen, it's all good. You know what? I actually having a little fun. I went on. I don't know if you guys know the French guy tonight. Um, I had a little fun calling out all these anti-Semites, and my Ice Wolf got triggered, so he's been a little upset. And so I called out all his friends on. And I actually recorded it, so I'm going to be putting it on 33ruleshow.com.
So again, we can find that we're at 33ruleshow.com.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. You guys are going to like it. It's pretty funny.
Okay,
Pretty
great.
funny.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So who won the game, Adam?
I was kind of rip off at the end, but Texas Tech held tough, but Virginia was just too much for him in the end. So it was a good game, though. It was a close game anyway. That's all you can ask for. But 33, again, I would like to thank you for reaching into the scourge of the internet and just finding the most burnt and unpalatable crumbs of Periscope and bringing them to our attention. What would we do without you, man?
I don't
And
know. It seems like they like you guys too, man. You know, so
I have never watched a second of the French guy, although I've heard of him before. Is it political in nature, or is it more of this kind of sewing circle Periscope drama thing?
no, actually, he's an attorney, and he's a Trump supporter, and he talks about different issues. So I go in and talk to him, and there's a lot of these guys. What's going on with there's one particular guy who actually calls himself Ludwig 1488. He grooms people,
Hmm.
and there's a guy Ship. So I went and I was and Mr. French knows about it. So we were talking about several different things, and then of course you know how I am. I just threw that subject up somewhere along the line, and then all hell breaks loose. Of course.
Yeah, you certainly know how to put your enemies in the spotlight very quickly.
Yeah. So they're kind of triggered right now.
Of
It's really
course.
fun. So listen, they're no different than these people. With the Q stuff, and I just like to bring out the point that there are people that aren't American that hate that way. And I'm glad to associate myself with people like yourself and Glenn and Ginger. You guys are what America's about, man.
Frequently says that he hates everyone equally, and he would never, ever put one orientation, gender, religion above or race above another or under another. So Glenn has been incredibly consistent right across the board.
And
Yeah,
and
he's he.
yeah,
No, go ahead, brother.
No, I was gonna say that's why we get along, because we actually think the same exact way. I don't discriminate. You know, right? Listen, I call it like I see it. I don't care. You know, I just look at
Well,
you how you present yourself. Yep.
the thing with you guys is I could just see you guys like 30 years ago walking down the street. So wherever you're at in the five boroughs, and somebody bumps into you, you don't really give a shit what color they are or what language you're speaking. You know, like, hey, watch the fuck out. What are you doing?
Hey,
You know what I
I'm
mean?
walking
Yeah,
here.
yeah, I'm
I'm
walking
walking
here.
here.
Exactly. That's the kind of attitude that Glenn and 33 have kept alive here, which is kind of like equal opportunity mocking and mostly good natured, but you run into the real assholes of the internet. Man, they are out there. For some reason, gravitate towards 33 more than
You
more
know
than
what it is.
most.
You know what it is, Adam. I'll share this with you. It's funny because you brought up, when I was younger. I'm a martial artist. I trained, in the Bronx with under Jerry Fontanez. Okay, and he fought, against Billy Blanks. If anybody doesn't know him, he's the guy who created Taibo.
That's
And
right.
I've competed, across the country. This is who I was. I love the fight, and I love all people. So it didn't matter to me what you were. I fought in Harlem with all black people in there, and to me it didn't matter, and they respected me. So I've conducted myself my entire life. So when these people on the internet want to mess with me, I can't fight the way I used to physically, but mentally I'm pretty damn sharp. So I take that challenge. So I take that idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the one thing we all have in common is we don't like bullies. We don't like bullies, and we don't like people who take advantage of those who don't know any better. So that's kind of what we do. Taking after these scam artists and then internet trolls who like to hide behind some type of anonymous status while reaching out and taking wicked, cyber two by fours to people's reputation, slander and lies. I think there's got to be somebody to stand up and say enough. So that's what's coming out of the fold here. A bunch of people just saying enough. We're not going to tolerate it anymore.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing I sort of hit upon was as I'm seeing this has been a real catalyst for a lot of people. Like me, I felt you feel a little bit alone. You don't feel like much is happening. Going back even a few months, but just since this whole thing broke with Praying Medic, and again, thank you, Adam, for baiting him so well, and just having that vision to set him up and having him. I mean, today someone was in the room and they said Praying Medic has been lying all day, and I said to them, Praying Medic lies every day, but
Yeah, that's true.
he's a sourpuss now. He's a real sourpuss. So what I've seen is just an amazing coalescence of people from all different backgrounds, all coming together, going in the same direction. So thank you, sir.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Spy. You don't know me that well, but the people that have been around for a couple of years know that there's one thing I hate, and that is Twitter threads. I can't stand them. But I was forwarded because he's such a coward that he blocked me. Somebody screenshotted his Twitter thread about me. So he's still lying. He's still deflecting. So I point by point just basically tore the guts out of his points systematically, and I did a 20 thread. 20 tweet thread, man, that's crazy for me. I just don't do that. I don't like it. I think it just clutters up people's shit. But I wanted people to see, photographic evidence, timestamps, let's get this shit out of the way. Let's get the bullshit out of the way. Let's get that's all they do.
Well,
All
I got
they
to be honest
do
with you.
on their side is just bullshit. They don't ever give actual stuff. Actual photos, actual whatever they're saying, fraudulent whatever expenditures by the FEC or that should be caught by the FEC. Tell me one. Give me some evidence, and they don't. They gloss over everything.
No, that was a point I was making on Smooch's show was that I challenge everyone who is a QAnon follower. Just all you got, just do your homework, okay? Just oh yeah, okay, call us a shill or call us, Mossad or whatever. I don't care. Give us, use your ad hominem attacks, but do one thing, okay? Show us one single piece of evidence that the MAGA coalition has done anything wrong. Show us one single thing, because you can't, because it's not true. And to insist that some high level official next to, in the intelligence community, next to our president, decided they were going to go after the MAGA coalition is absolutely ridiculous. There's nothing there. And but go
You're
ahead.
exactly right, because you've got me in a weird position here where I'm getting these tweets that are forwarded to me, or that I see from people like Sebastian Gorka, who, you know, it's not that I don't like the guy, but I've had better employees in my life, but I agree completely with where he's coming from. Then I'm also very sympathetic to what they attempted to do to him and are continuing to do to him and his wife through this whole process. And then you get that vertigo, that discombobulation of somebody like Zero Hour, who I can never really trust or not even really care about so much. But then, somebody sent me a 5-minute clip of his discussion tonight that he was doing on Dilly and Medic, and it started to make sense. What he was saying was actually making sense, which is a rarity for the clips that I've heard out of this guy. So it just seems that everybody from every, whatever corner that they were in,
Right.
it seems to be coming to grips with this, that it was wrong what was done, and now that it's just seeping into the consciousness of the base, it is making it more of a harried response than it was before. Before it was, hell, mom and pop are losing their boomer bucks, which that's a different level of alarm. That's a different DEFCON level. When you start to erode the support of the base and potentially create, electoral disillusionment going into a presidential election, then it kind of elevates to the top. Then you start getting more people to pay attention, and the people that really truly care about the reelection of the president, you can see it. It's like putting a dye into the system, right? Or do a smoke test through your water pipes. You're going to find out where the cracks and where the leaks are, where the people that don't really care about anything but keeping the money coming into them, not about getting the president reelected. I think we still have a couple months here for people to wake up, but we don't have as much time as people think. And that's why we've stepped up our efforts.
Yeah, and that's always been my concern, and I think that's the thing I sort of stress the most is, and why I keep kind of pushing the whole telethon idea. But just because I really want to get everybody on the same page, I just feel like the mega coalition and this issue has become a touchstone that everybody can sort of identify, and they're all just kind of picking sides. But it's easy for momentum to wane. And so when I see these guys going hard, I'm like, I want to motivate every single one of them. I want to get them all moving in the same direction and give them something to do so that it just keeps going on. Because like you said, you do that smoke test and suddenly the cracks start to appear. And eventually, we're like, when you start getting their own people are now really questioning them, that's starting to seep into the consciousness, and that is the Q cult. So the cracks and the fissures are starting to show. Now they're doing their best. They're jumping from their left foot to their right foot, back to their left foot. They're yelling, they're screaming, and that makes it even worse. That's why the shame, the mockery, keep picking on these guys, keep making memes, keep retweeting, all this stuff. This effort has to keep going. It has to move forward, and it has to move forward hard, because if we lose this momentum, we're never going to, I don't think we're going to get this kind of an opportunity again.
No, I think you're hitting kind of on the same point that Glenn talked about the other night when we were talking about this drone strike guy, this Brian Cates. Everything about him is made up. It's everything about his personal life has been deflected, so you can't see how pathetic he is, or his ideas, his Jeff Sessions obsession transforming into Rod Rosenstein obsession. We were talking about that, and Glenn said he was definitely the type of guy in the Revolutionary War times that would be a colonialist that would fight and pick up for the king, because that's the level of backbone that he really truly has. he will side with what he thinks is the winning sentiment of the day. And you have the rest of us. Now, the thing with the colonialists is they were promised what? Land, title, money. They had a lot of access due to what was already an investment by England, right? So using it as a metaphor, we are the militias or the ragtag regular army of the Continental Army. We're the ones that are basically not doing this for money or land or title. We're doing it to basically have the chance to take back what should be ours and make it ours. And so the people that are going to fight the hardest are the ones that have financial vesting in this whole thing. So if you think you're just going to like snap your fingers and get in the Matrix out of the game, or Joe M out of the game, or Praying Medic, or Ann Vandersteel, or now Bill Mitchell's obviously in this for a reason. It's because he had no more money left to bilk out of people, so he has to jump into Q. And then you get into the Patriot shitbox. So you've got these people that are willing to fight in their trenches till the death.
Well,
because that's their money.
Yeah, they're cornered too. They can't just suddenly decide to go away either.
No.
I mean, it's like that's sort of it. Not I mean, we're dealing with some egomaniacs here as well, but this is a real cash cow for them. But at the same time, I think they're just sort of stuck in limbo right now. They don't know what to do exactly, other than to really try to fight back against this. But unfortunately, it seems like the more they protest, the more this movement grows. But if there's not, you still have to have that little agitation, that little feather on the back of the neck, just bugging them nonstop and to keep them riled up. Because once you stop with that pressure, they start to feel safe again. And I believe that the IRS is going to come after a couple of them. I think Praying Medic is in real trouble, but that doesn't mean we're not going to have some B players that are going to try to step up to the plate and become A players. Now, if you destroy the A players first, right, and you really give them a bad name, and you leave a sour taste in everybody's mouth, then you don't have to worry so much about the B players. Like, I don't think they're gonna be as effective. I mean, it's no matter what. I think this is going to go on. But I think the more damage we do now, the more shame we bring, the more awareness we bring of how much of a scam this is and what a lie this all is. I think it's going to be much harder in the future for someone to sort of pick this up and keep going. Well, I mean, there's always going to be a few that are going to just follow no matter what. You know what I mean?
Grifters just reinvent themselves, so they'll just keep going. I mean, until they're stopped. I mean, that's what they do. So that's why these kind of things happen. So they're not going to stop unless that's why they need to be continually shamed and pointed out. I definitely agree. And I have to say that Glenn, Adam, Ginger, have been at this for a long time, more than most people understand, and they certainly deserve a lot of credit for what's happened and gone down. And that's their story to tell. But I'm just sitting back and enjoying the shit out of it.
Yeah, we all have our own different. How do I
we have our roles to play.
We have our own. We have our own set of skills that we bring to the whole thing, and sometimes we'll merge together on ideas, and other times we just take independent ventures.
Oh, we lost him. Are you still there, 33?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll get him back on as soon as there we go. Here he is. All right, he'll be on.
Now I got a chance to talk.
Oh, okay. Hurry up. Continue, Adam.
Yeah, that was.
Go ahead, Adam.
Go ahead, 33. Yeah. I gave you the stage. My phone inadvertently went black for no reason. So. No, what I was going to say, 33, really was like, in deference to your point, is that we're going to keep moving on these independent fronts. And Doug Stewart, of course, is a big part of it. There's other people that are a big part of it. But Ginger, I think, is the heart and soul of it. She somehow manages to... I can't really explain it other than she has the ability to disarm and then arm very quickly. I mean, it's just... she can bring you in with that Southern charm and give you a chance to see the light if you're a Q follower. But she can also switch to a weaponized mode so quickly that it is shocking to her enemies how quickly she can strike. And even then, they have a hard time going back and painting her as anything other than some type of matriarchal figure. So, I mean, she's very uniquely situated in this whole thing, where Glenn and I are just Glenn and I. You can see what you see is what you get. But Ginger is quite actually the heart and soul of the defiance, the resistance, if you will,
Yeah.
against this. And I shudder to think where we would be overall in this whole thing if it wasn't for the dogged stalking and ritualistic response that she's given these people over the last year or more. I don't think we would be where we're at right now. And so my hat is always taken off to what Ginger has done. I don't think she gets enough credit because mainly she's pretty busy with real life when she's not doing what she's doing on Twitter. She's been
Adam,
phenomenal.
I want to add something to that because you know
Mhm.
what, most people don't know. You're right. When early on, I don't know, it was a good while ago, many months ago. She said that boat thread with me, and she actually is really passionate, and I think that she brings a lot of people together, and she's definitely integral in making sure that you have the information, and so she could actually she's bringing the receipts and. I appreciate what she shared with me. She's awesome.
Yeah, she hates supposition. Like she's not really into this, which of course, all three of us know here. Most of what you're seeing in social media is all just conjecture, or people put their own supposition or, God forbid, presupposition out there. It's either misinformation or disinformation. I mean, it actually intellectually offends Ginger. And just because she's where she's at in her life and trying to finish up this political science degree from one of the most conservative colleges in the country. I mean, she's just locked in. She's just locked in like this academic sense. We all were when we were going to college, but now she's got brains and learning experiences of growing to be of a certain age, and she can just box it all in and just crush you with it. Just crush you, mercilessly crush you with logic, but still do it and be much more. It is a much more tolerable experience for people than it is for Glenn or I going after you. It seems to have a nicer edge. Seems to have a softer way of taking the edge off of it. So I think she's a centrifugal force behind this whole thing.
Sorry,
Yeah,
guys, that's my puppy barking in the
that's
background.
okay. The one time Ginger gave me cause for concern was when she was willing to forgive Brendan Dildo. I was concerned that he would actually accept, and then
Yeah, well,
that was the only thing I was concerned. I was like, shit, man, this guy's gonna actually accept, man. This can't happen. But of course he
no,
didn't.
no. You know why? It's because I know this guy pretty well over a couple of years. A little bit longer, 33. Than you do, and Ginger knows him as well, and knows how to get in between that ridiculous 6-inch space between his ridiculous ears, and she knows how to manipulate him. He fears Ginger more than he'll fear any man on the internet. Just absolutely turns into a 12-year-old boy whenever Ginger is involved. I mean, it just goes back to like playground shit. Ginger just absolutely, there's nothing left to the guy. I mean, just gelds him, just takes his
Yeah,
nuts right the fuck off.
I never forgot that clip. You're right. I remember how he just went after her with such, it was just vulgar, man. And I was like, you know, if you're gonna attack somebody, at least try to attack their ideas. But if you got to try to attack, Ginger because of her looks and, um,
Well, what
yeah,
else? What else are you gonna say? I mean, it's almost like the little boy. I got a 6-year-old daughter now, and one day she says to me, that one of the boys it just sounds like a tried and true type of example here, but it actually happened where she's like, "Oh, he pulled my ponytail," and she was upset about it. And I said, "Well, that's what boys in the playground will do, but they actually like you." and that's their way of getting attention. And what Dilly did was that version times 10. You know, he just went off and just said every nasty thing he could possibly say about Ginger. What he really was saying, and if his, I'm not going to say what I really want to say about her. If fiance, we'll call her, was listening, she would note in the way that he attacked her that he really had a thing for her. I mean, you can just tell. And of course, it was rebuffed if it ever even got to her doorstep. Even in a phone conversation, she never would have, you know, having been on the show for about a year with him, never given him the time of day. Dilly is a child. Dilly is a child. He, like I said, sent me messages before, just like pathetic, licking my ass messages. You know, I mean, I couldn't even take him serious. It's just a boy. He's a boy. That's all I can say. You've met him, 33. You know. I mean,
I was afraid you were going to bring that up.
He's a child. He's a child.
Yeah, you know what? And then he had to actually admit it on his scope when I went in because he got so triggered. He was like, you know, here's 33, you know, and he said, Claude, I'm his resident troll. And then he blocks me, and I'm like, what the hell is that? I'm like, and then he's lying again. So the guy's all confused. He seems to be intimidated by anybody that knows the truth about him. You know, but
anybody taller than him, which is what, 90% of the fucking, you know, population over 21. That's a hell of a way to live. No wonder he's in his bathroom all day. He doesn't come out.
Well, at least he's got those looks, you know. That's the main thing.
Oh, yeah.
He's got that to fall back on.
That Easter Island look, that's really in, man.
Yeah,
in.
quite chiseled. I thought you'd appreciate that.
Oh, very nice.
Listen, so if I could not looking too bad. He takes that vitalometry. I mean, it looks like it's helping a little bit.
Yeah, $70 a bottle. It better be doing something for him. But if I could just sort of interject a little bit, just to kind of go off on what you're saying in regards to Ginger. As you guys all know, I mean, the whole reason why I'm here is because I was fighting against QAnon, which I thought virtually by myself, and there she was to back me up, and I was backing her up, and then she was just this really nice girl, but at the same time, like you said, she could just turn it on real quick, you know, go into attack mode, right? And so I would see her be this wonderful, gentle spirit trying to work with people, but once you cross that line, boy, whammo. So the whole reason why I'm a part of this is because of her. I had no idea who you guys were, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm glad I found out, but I'm just wanted to kind of add that to the conversation.
Hey, listen, Spot, you must have been appalled by me because I was listening to you talking to Smooch. I'm like, God, when you first heard me, you must have been appalled listening to my scopes.
No, like I said, I mean, I think Ginger tried to protect me early on because she knows I'm a Christian, right? And so when I first got to know her, I didn't know anything about you. I didn't know anything about Adam or Glenn or anything. And she said to me one day, and this is probably like we're going like 3 or 4 months of having a relationship with her and not knowing anything about, you know, any of that stuff really. And she says, well, I'm going on with Glenn. And I said, well, what's that? And she goes, well, it's this show, you know, SNL, and but I don't think it's really your cup of tea. I'm like, well, why not? She goes, well, you know, Glenn can be pretty brutal. And so yeah, that's how I discovered the show. And she wasn't lying. But as I said on the Smooch Panda today, Glenn, he there's a reason for what he does. You know, his words, he's saying FDFFF. His sarcasm is biting and witty, and there's always a reason behind it.
Love him and not.
Yeah.
Funny.
So I'm sure that you're probably the same way, 33. You're probably a very, very graphic individual, although you have a real good reason for it. So, I mean, you're friends with these guys, so how bad could you be?
No. Oh, Jesus. This guy's naked right now while we're talking to him. You don't even want to know what the hell's going on. So, I mean, there's certain questions you don't want to ask, man.
Well, I know he's naked most of the time because he was flashing that picture while we were having a conversation. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to turn my camera around and start showing pictures of myself. But no, just want to throw that out there. I am fully clothed, but yeah, 33 doesn't have. He's not He's not shy, so to speak.
Listen, if you want to see me naked, just go to 33ruleshow.com.
Nah, I think Glenn took that part of the fucking website down, dude. That's all. Yeah.
Oh shit!
Yeah. Yeah, the medic tried to use that divisive. Matter of fact, that's part of my thread today. When he got involved in the fallout headed towards COVFEFEFEST, which would have been October 2017, where he just tried to torture poor Jenluvalatte and Greenskin and try to destroy their event, even though it wasn't a MAGA coalition event. They, Ann Vandersteel wanted a cut of the money, and of course they said no. And Praying Medic wanted his own form of audience away from mine, so they came together to try to destroy it. It didn't work out too well for him, but what he tried to use was Glenn. He tried to say that.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That doesn't sound very wise to me. But go on. Go on.
Well, he did. He used Glenn's language. He used, a lot of it because he posed it out in a sense of, religious doctrine. You'd be like, okay, this doesn't pass the purity test. We've got Glenn out there using the F word. He dropped the C word. We can't have this. This is not good. And then there were some people that rightly came back and said, well, language isn't part of my Christianity, the complexity of my Christianity. So I judge not thee, who judge not me. And some others were like, we are here to celebrate the man who was openly recorded saying that he likes to grab women by the pussy. So let's just, where are we coming from here? Let's all let's figure out, are we being hypocrites or not? And I think 75% of the people involved all came down to the line of like, okay, Glenn's expressing himself the way he is, but let's just face it, we are behind a president, a man who for 40 years has been, when necessary, really, really, really vulgar. And let's not all pretend that we're on the 700 Club now.
Well, the whole reason why the whole appeal that Trump has is he's a regular guy. I mean, for a billionaire, he's a regular guy. You know what I mean? Like he's got that New York in him, right? He's a guy you can have a beer with. And he makes it abundantly clear, as far as I can tell, that if you're nice to him, you're decent to him, he's genuinely interested in you. There's no fake smile on his face. He's a genuine person. So, of course, we can talk like normal people. That's his greatest appeal, because he's the anti-politician.
Yeah, well, he'll look at you right in the eye and say, he's not going to have a beer with you. Of course, I think, I know what you're saying, but
yeah,
he won't drink, he won't smoke, but he'll look.
No,
right
you're
in the
right.
eye,
Sorry about
and
that.
he'll be like, you shouldn't have that drink. You shouldn't be smoking. It's going to fucking kill you. You're a fucking moron for doing that. Get away from me with that shit. That is what he'll say to somebody near him with that. Does that sound very Christian? No, but he's also the guy that very Christian and tends to fall back into what is now recognized as the post 1996 American Christian Israeli relationship, and making a lot of our Christians happy in that regard. So, I mean, people are saying, okay, oh, he doesn't smoke, he doesn't drink, oh, he loved, he's very pro-life. Yeah, but let's just move past all that, because underneath that is a man who has done it all, everything. I mean, he has taken every vice known to man other than alcohol.
Right.
And
bad
drugs.
example.
Yeah.
I take it back. I'd like to erase this part of the scope.
Yeah.
Hey guys,
No, but
I just wanted to say something because I'm from New York. I've been watching Trump since I'm a little kid. He's got, I think he's got, I don't know, 15 something years on me, whatever. And he's he's a New Yorker through and through. He's, like I said, he's from Jamaica Estates. I'm from Queens. I've watched him since he was renovating the Hyatt Hotel in New York, fighting with Mayor Koch, and I remember
No, he
all that.
hated him. Fucking
What's
hated
that?
him.
Yeah, he was always involved,
He
and I watched.
hated Koch. Yeah.
I
Oh
don't.
man, he was brutal.
So
I
you
just
remember?
mean, but I mean, for a billionaire, the guy is a street fighter. You know what I mean? Like, he's
Yeah,
not gonna.
because he
Yeah,
hasn't always been a billionaire, and sometimes he was worth less than what three of us are
right.
Yeah,
combined,
of course.
and fought his way back and had a
Listen,
lot of complicating issues with his father, as a lot of guys do growing up. So he's by far not a perfect person, and that's where all these people that are just wrapped up in this nonsense, this God Emperor bullshit. Uh, anyone who says like, "Oh, Jeff Sessions could never be a mistake because Trump put him in there," but do they realize the flawed logic here? Because that would mean that Rex Tillerson can't be a mistake, Mattis can't be a mistake, Priebus can't be a mistake, Spicer can't be a mistake. I can just rattle off everybody right up to Nielsen right now, right? I mean,
you never know until you know, right?
he dumped them all. We're dumping everybody out.
You
But
know,
it goes to show you how disingenuous they are. To say that they're still holding on to Jeff Sessions as like some
Oh,
ridiculous example.
listen, loyalty and honor seems to be something that's slipping away from our society. Yeah,
well, one
but
thing I've noticed, and I don't know if you would agree with me or not, Adam, but essentially in my whole life, I've discovered there are two people. There are two kinds of people. There are decent people, or there are evil people. That's really all it is. I mean,
Mm.
I don't mean to oversimplify it, but there are people that, yeah, they'll screw you over and they mess up every once in a while, but they're good people. But then there are those other kinds of people that are always going to be in it for themselves. And if they do anything for you, it's because they're looking down the road at what you're going to do for them.
Yeah,
yeah, but it's
I'd be
complicated.
pretty careful with that
Yeah,
because people like 33 would say,
yeah,
which category are you putting Trump in?
yeah. Me too,
No, I'm
man.
putting him in the good category.
Well, because most New Yorkers who have followed Trump from the beginning, that's not how Trump operates.
Absolutely.
Trump,
Yeah, I operate like Trump, man. Listen, this guy. I can tell you something. People are triggered because I'll just tell you a couple of things. I remember when he got the tax abatement for the Hyatt Hotel, man. He triggered
mm-hmm.
everybody. Yeah, I forget what he was, 50, 100 years, whatever it was. I mean, this guy was pulling off deals and still does. They don't understand. He goes on the Howard Stern show and can actually, like, take apart somebody and humiliate them. This guy doesn't have a problem shaming you from Rosie O'Donnell, which I take pride in. She blocked me on Twitter. She actually got me a ban on Twitter. See, people like get proud of the people who that follow them. I'm proud of the people who block them.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I
but
mean,
we
I'm saying
celebrate that part of him.
what I'm saying
I
though,
think we
at the
did.
core though, at the core of him, like he's a good guy. Like if you
He
mess him
is.
over, he's gonna mess you over. What I'm just trying to say is
Mm-hmm.
like in my life, I've noticed there's really only two kinds of people. There are good guys and there are bad guys. I mean, I know I don't mean to oversimplify it, but that's my sensation I get. Like I can almost tell, like I can tell a guy like Praying Medic is always being like Praying Medic. You know what I
Oh, well,
mean?
yeah. Oh, you're talking
And a guy
like
like Adam Gingrich has
sociopath.
always been like Adam Gingrich. Now, I'm not saying that
Yeah.
either one of you is perfect or you're not capable of doing something wrong, but I mean, at your core,
Hmm.
do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Oh,
sure.
Like
This
yeah,
guy's
yeah,
got
you
some
yeah.
have a
dirty things,
conscience.
man.
You're going to do the right thing
Sure.
most of the time. But a guy like Praying Medic is a
Mm.
psychopath, and he will only for them. I'm not saying he can't be good to his kids or he
Mm.
doesn't
Have you
can't
ever
have a
heard him?
friend.
That's a great point, by the way,
Yes.
Spy. Have you ever heard him talk about his kids?
No,
Because he has a couple,
I did not
and
know that.
they don't think too highly of their father. If you would be surprised to hear that, I would be surprised.
Well, we were
Yeah,
having this telethon on the show, and I wonder if we could reach out to one of his children. And
yeah, or maybe Penny, his ex-wife. I mean,
there you
Penny
go.
Penny went through hell. I mean, she was stalked, she was harassed, she was assaulted.
Does
Um, these are
does she
all
still
open
live in Washington
records.
State?
I think she's still up there in Washington. Yeah,
Guess what? I live in Thurston County, which was the same county where
that's
he
the
lived.
county. That's the county. Yep,
Yeah.
that's all up. That's right there. All the records
Ah,
are still there.
Wow.
very
Uh, yeah,
interesting.
financial problems and just this guy is just a wholesale problem child, and that type of thing just doesn't tend to go away. And a lot of what's coming up, and I don't want to give too much away because there's a lot of journalistic work going on here that makes me impatient because I'm kind of like more. I do opposition research because that's my background, from my years in politics. I want to get it out one form or another. But when I'm dealing with some people that are working with journalistic integrity,
Right.
double and triple checking everything with no intrigue, just facts. There's a lot more coming out on these people, the very central components of the Q phenomenon and the hustle.
So that's
And
interesting.
and
That's interesting, Adam.
So
Because
you've been a busy little bee, haven't you?
these people are digital marketing rather experts. They are coding experts. There's 3 or 4 of them that have formed the Nexus. It's just unbelievable. And now they're attempting to cash in, and that's why you're starting to see things about in the Matrix pushed to the forefront. And unfortunately for Big Millie B, I think is what Glenn calls him. Big Millie B is really doubling down with this Q thing and bringing in the Matrix on again. And they're going to be obliquely discussing the MAGA coalition because Bill has this huge thing where he tells people they're not allowed to say my name or the name of the coalition out loud. Because I'm serious, he's so fucking pathetic.
no
Like,
way, no way.
yeah, read his tweets. He's like, "Oh, so and so that we refuse to name." I mean, it's so sad and pathetic.
Oh,
But
Yeah,
that's
everybody
where,
everybody knows. Everybody knows.
yeah,
listen,
exactly.
I'm wondering. Hey, Jen, I know Jen's in the chat there. Hey, Jen, did he try to ruin your event because you didn't serve donuts? Is that what happened?
Hey, you know what we should do? We should send him, like, you remember what Tucker did, right? He sent Brian Stelter some donuts. I think maybe we should be sending some 12 a dozen glazed donuts to the glazed donut.
Hey, $1 million later, that fat fucking ordered his own donuts. I'm not getting him a damn thing.
No, but we could have a nice card and everything, with love from the MAGA coalition.
He looks
I'd
like
spring for
he looks
that.
like a
I'd spring for
pear-shaped
that. Just
glazed donut, though. He looks like one of those pear-shaped glazed donuts,
Yeah, I think I got to give credit where credit is due. I believe it was Isaac Green that first said that, the glazed donut.
Yeah, he did. Isaac is, Isaac's. He's a guy that I didn't know at all, and working together on some side projects with him, and I can tell he's hot and cold on this whole thing because he'd really rather be doing something else. This isn't like an obsession for him to bring down the queue. I mean, he's been doing it a little longer than most through the YouTube community, and I think it's probably starting to wear on him a little bit. But God bless him. He's just wake up
That's
one day and he just sees something that pisses him off, and he gets right back up there and makes a video about it.
Oh, for
So
sure. I mean,
for a
I
while
love
now.
the I love the fact that he was watching the show live and in real time. He was making a video about what we were talking about within the Matrix, and going to the Patriot Soapbox live, and that was just that was great.
It's funny. I've been watching a lot of these YouTubers that that are coming into play. For a lot of them, I know a lot of them because I've watched a lot of these people before. So it's kind of interesting how this is all playing out. It's, because I've been watching them all for a while. So just like I share that.
Actually, Jen just said something kind of interesting in the room. She said, actually, his wife is more evil than he is.
Yeah, I know. I saw that.
Yeah, I think we might. You know what? I don't get a whole lot of chances to talk with Jen, so if Jen wouldn't mind calling in while I'm on, I'd appreciate
Yeah,
that,
listen,
Jen.
I could bounce off because I know three's not good. So I'll bounce off and let Jen call in because Jen's got an amazing story to tell. And when she told me the story for the first time, I was just shaking my head and floored. So I
Yeah.
think it's great. Call in. Listen, I'll jump in the chat. Adam, is always a pleasure.
All right, man. Hey,
Bye.
33. Don't forget, stay in the gutter and keep cleaning the gutter out in Periscope. Keep
Hey,
doing
listen,
that for
before
us.
I go, I wanted to mention Brandon Cadman. Did you watch my interview with him?
Oh, Jesus, H. Loving Lord.
Hey, 33. 33. Hey, man, thank you for coming
Yeah.
on. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to talk to you again soon. And hey,
All right. Listen, don't
hey,
kick me out. Goodbye.
hey, hey, put
Goodbye.
some clothes on, okay?
Yeah, put
Just
some
go put
clothes
some
on,
clothes on
33.
right now. All
Bye
right.
bye.
Take
He
care,
looks
buddy.
good. He looks good.
All right. So I guess we're going to try to get Jen up in here. Let's get
Yeah,
Jen up in here.
what Jen went through, man, is time to delve into it. But the fact that Medic did his own little, 2 dozen tweet thread today, just bullshitting his way through
Well, I got to say
revisionist
something.
history.
When I first saw that he had a wife, I'm like, who could marry this guy? But now that I hear the story, I'm gonna hear, I'm gonna be like, she's more evil than him. Now I get it. How you doing, Jen? It's nice to talk to you.
Yeah, nice to talk to you. I finally got to see you on. Well, I've been watching your scopes for the last week. For some reason, when I first was trying to find your scope, it said I blocked. I don't even know who you were, so then I had to unblock you, and then I finally found out.
Oh, you know what that is? That's the former Canadian filter. I had mine
Yeah,
on too.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
You got to turn
Anybody
off
who was
that
ever
Canadian
Canadian.
filter.
Like, what? Get into your thing. So yeah. Anyway, that was interesting. So yeah. So today was an interesting day. I was catching up tonight on the tweet thread. Well, I saw yours, Adam, but then I was reading. I went on the internet, and what's funny is if you type in "praying medic" and MAGA on there just in Google, Glenn's
Hmm.
scope about where is medic on the lam is like number 5.
I number one because I think we had the algorithm switched to our favor. So
Well, it's funny. It's like everything is about, him today. Well, the biggest thing today was, of course, that was trending in the top, let's say 3 or 4, was all his long thread. So that's how, it was on tweet thread or whatever that he made it.
yeah.
So you're not, what's funny is that,
So did that bring a lot of memories back for you?
oh,
And did you think to yourself how? I mean, doubling down on blatant
just
lies.
blatant thing that I saw some of it work, and I was literally just pathological. And the thing that he starts off with, God told me, I don't have my computer up, but basically that he had a dream that he's not going to talk about the trolls, and his relationship with the coalition. But do you know in the thread he's calling now the Dixie MAGA was a coalition event?
Yeah, what didn't exist.
Which didn't even exist. It's like, oh my God, Glenn even just showed what you guys just showed. Was it last week? I don't know, all the days run together, but the paperwork for when the coalition was created, and it wasn't even
Yeah.
at the time of Dixie MAGA. But I'm wondering, and he says he's not allowed to talk about anything. My take on that was, is he really not allowed to talk about anything? Or his lawyers, quote unquote, his new lawyers have told him not to say anything. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, it's more or less that's what you say when you ain't got shit to say that's true.
Yeah. His wife, Adam, is everybody thought, because, okay, Spy, so basically, I was just like a little background. I was an initial Adam follower. I found Adam his first appearance on YVA. And then after he first made his appearance on YVA with the recount, I started following him on Periscope. And so I listened to YVA, but I really loved it when another Carrie Kellman that was on there. And so I really liked Carrie and I really liked Adam. And then Adam brought in, or Jack brought Adam in. I think it was Jack first and then you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it all started, because I remember when I first got introduced to Jack was when he came on Mitchell's show for the Pussygate tape. And he was saying that Paul Ryan was the one that released the tape and, was
Right.
doing all that. That's how I kind of got involved. So that made me kind of stay into the show more. But also, it's because at the time, which we now know, that Bill Mitchell was stealing other people's polls. I really thought Bill Mitchell might know something about polling, because I didn't know, because it seemed like his polls, what he was quoting, seemed to be accurate and the media was lying. But of course, we now know that those weren't his polls; those were somebody else's polls that he was.
Well, he was reading off the top page interpretations from Richard Barris.
Exactly.
So they were polls per se, but he was taking the analysis of pollster Richard Barris.
Yes, he wasn't
and
giving him
using
credit,
them
though.
as his own.
Yes.
Yeah. No, God,
No,
never.
that's what I mean. He was basically taking, it's like me taking credit for someone else's work,
Yeah.
you know?
So Jack Posobiec and I together here, and that I was still in touch with the recount legal teams in PA, and that I had contacts with the one in Wisconsin, which wouldn't take much to get Michigan information. So he's like, "Hey, can you come on?" I didn't even know what Spreaker.com was, and that's what I guess where his show was at that
I
point.
think it was there, only there, because you know what?
Yeah, he didn't even know what Periscope was for
He didn't
months
know
after
what Periscope was, because I had to look up I didn't know what Periscope was until you said on the show, follow me, I'm on Twitter, and then here's I didn't really know on Twitter.
Yeah.
I didn't know what Periscope was. So that's how I learned about Periscope.
I did, my first Periscope was like the night before the election, because then I could show my face, right? Because I didn't want to hurt the campaign or whatever. So I think about like 80 people total had seen the damn thing. And then the night of, at 2:45 when I got home, when Trump was getting on the stage, I periscoped a little bit, maybe after that. And then the next day, I periscoped something to the extent of dinner party tips for Trump supporters to talk down their liberal friends or whatever, whatever it was. I think it was like Thursday or Friday, and Jack retweeted it. And back then, Jack had like 75,000 followers.
He did, yes.
Yeah, so I guess I got like 10 or 12,000 people in a Periscope, which at that point was like I couldn't even keep up. It was really bizarre. My phone was just like going crazy. It was like nuts. So shortly after that, Jack's like, "Hey, listen, you need to do a Periscope about the recounts. People are flipping out." So I was like, all right, I'll do a recount Periscope. So I did a recount Periscope. There's like 12,000 fucking people.
Mm-hmm.
I had like 400 Periscope followers, and it was like there was like 12,000 people watching this thing, and I'm like, the fucking comments are flying by. I wasn't very good at it back then. I'm just trying to keep up with all of it, and I had no reason other than the reason that Jack is saying, "Hey, can you keep doing that?" And I knew that it was coming from somebody through the Roger Stone universe.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, "Okay, I'll keep doing it." And then it was a week after the election that he says, "Hey, can you?" And I was at the Capitol, and I was having some meetings, and they were like, "Can you do the Bill Mitchell show?" And I'm like, "What the fuck is the Bill Mitchell show?" And it was like, "Oh, he's got a big Twitter account. He's got a show on Spreaker." I'm like, "I don't even know what Spreaker is. Whatever." I never heard of him. I never heard of him during the entire election. And so I did it. And that was the one, apparently, that Medic linked up to his thread today.
Mm-hmm.
So, which I thought was pretty interesting.
I saw that. That's what I thought. I saw that too.
Never had I intended to do that show again. I thought Carrie Kellerman was a nice lady. Talking about, I guess, again, Jen Jack calls me up a couple days later and says, "Hey, I'm going to be on Bill Mitchell every Tuesday now. I want you to be the other co-host with me." And I'm like, all right. So it's something subtly changed because I was monitoring Twitter the whole time during the election, but Jack was younger than me, and Jack went under the PA GOP process years after I did. So it was more or less, it was weird because then all of a sudden he was like asking me to do things where I would normally be telling him what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of reversed itself at some point just because of the size of his Twitter interactions. Mm-hmm. And that was directly related to Roger. So then I was like, okay, I didn't know. I was new to social media. I was like, okay, whatever. I'm doing this anyway, right? I'm already doing the recount stuff. So I did it for a couple of weeks, and then then you remember, Jen, it turned into Faithless Elector.
Yes.
Remember that piece of shit in Texas?
Yes.
And everybody flipped out. We weren't gonna get the delegates, and it was just so fucking stupid. But I kept periscoping, and I kept, showing up on Bill's show once a week. And this periscope thing, you have me doing a week. How can I get in on this? And I'm like, oh, it's real complicated. You set up a periscope account to your Twitter account, and you hit go live. You know what I mean? I'm not a techie, Bill. It's not that hard.
The thing is, Bill never got it, and still doesn't to this day grasp that it's not like he kept changing. How many times that guy changed platforms, chasing followers? But it's like Jack had a totally separate. Well, some of the same, but I would say a separate crowd following than your following initially. And then, like you're saying, through Roger and stuff. And then, Bill just never got the fact that it wasn't the app. It was you. It's like he thinks it's like, let me switch over to YouTube and then let me go over here and let me go over here because how many times
you have no idea how right you are, because this is kind of stuff. This is like, hey, Spy, you're doing like behind the scenes shit that no one's heard before. So,
oh yeah, I know.
27 people are listening, but they might.
I'm keeping my mouth shut, and I'm going to let you guys keep talking. I'm going to make one observation though. Is it just me, or does Bill remind you of that character from Mary Tyler Moore, Ted Baxter?
Yeah, with a much larger frame.
Like he would be this complete, utter, empty-headed person, and then he would just go on the news and he would do it very, he tried to be authoritative, but really behind it, he was this scared sort of, had no confidence.
Very naive. Yes.
Yeah.
Low self-esteem. Yeah, people have actually made that point to me before. But to Jen's point, so Jack was really, really close with Cernovich during the election, because Cernovich was the key. And I've talked about this before. We all use Cernovich a little bit as like the leaker of disinformation, because he had a pretty big crowd on his periscopes. But Jack was close to him. I was not. I was kind of weirded out by him. So we kind of split off on that front. And that's why Jack had about 150,000 Twitter following up, and his periscopes. Like Cernovich would retweet the periscopes.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jack also had some of the Infowars crowd because of his relationship with Roger, because Roger was linked up with Alex Jones, and not there too long after the election. I was just kind of riding away. I didn't think I was going to be doing this very long. I was just like, whatever, I'm going to wait, see what kind of offer I get from the administration, and thinking that was going to be what I was going to do until then. So I was kind of following orders, and there weren't a lot of orders going around. So any order I could get, I would follow. But then it literally exploded in the alt-right nonsense. Like then that was the war. It broke out between Milo and Baked Alaska and Cernovich, and the deplorable turned into a giant fiasco, and all kinds of things made me wonder if I should even be a part of this thing.
Yeah, the guy that Richard Spencer was there, that was the mess.
Yeah, that turned into an issue. And Cernovich actually threw Baked Alaska out. I happened to see that part. It was like about 6 security guys that escorted him out. And Roger Stone even had to talk his way in. There was an issue there at the door. So, my original planning committee spot, like I just wanted off of it to get the hell away from that whole event. But I still went. I still had a good time. But you could tell the egos were just starting to pop up.
Mm-hmm.
And Bill, it was hilarious, because the first time I met him in person, he thought he had a speaking role. And
he advertised that, Brian. I mean, Adam. He advertised that on YVA over and over and over, that he was going to have
Yeah, well, he did. You know who got it? And that pissed him bad.
Mm-hmm.
Most people there had no idea who Bill Mitchell was. Nobody. I mean, nobody had an idea who it was.
And to Cernovich's credit, which is kind of funny to say, he hated him from the beginning. Like, he didn't want any part of his show. He didn't like the show. He said that he was a leech and a scammer. Had all
He went on one time,
yes,
and the after effects were not good.
yes, exactly. I mean, he just really he kind of. I think somebody told him, "Hey, cool it," at the time. But yeah, it's just funny how going way back then, I mean, that's how, and Bill just kept, and the thing is, you were the only, besides Carrie at the time, who did not have a big Twitter following. Jack, I think, was on like every other week, sometimes once a week. It would depend if something big was going on. Then Bill would get Jack to come on, and of course he would get Jack.
No, Jack. Yeah. Jack and I were on together for the first 2 months every Tuesday night.
Yes.
I remember.
Yeah. No, but
and
I mean, the only consistent people. Yeah.
Yeah. Jack started to beg off because he was getting bigger, so he didn't want to deal with it. And I can remember, like, that's the first time I was ever with Brian and Scene.
Oh, that's right. I remember that now, vaguely. Mm-hmm.
I was kind of a dick. To Brian because he was kind of talking in these topical terms, not really getting into the actual, nuts and bolts of it. And it took like a couple months for me to realize that, Hassine was just like one of these true-hearted, firm believer types that still brought something to the table. But all I ever wanted to do was just be a normal analyst. I just wanted to tell you what was going on in my perspective. And what I heard was constant hyperbole, constant bullshit. I mean, everything that was being said was just like laced with superlatives and, just like, what are we doing? And so I really had an issue with it. And I got to say, I never did more than one show a week.
No.
I begged off many times, and I gave an hour of my life for a year every week for not one dime. Not one dime, while this man was fundraising off of my information. And he has the fucking audacity to turn around and make me the enemy.
Well, that's it. Oh, sorry, Spy.
No, I was just gonna concur with that, but go ahead.
No, I mean, and the thing is, Spy, he was always chasing new co-hosts, consistent. And then he was always trying to get on the other nights. He'd have someone on, then blow them off, have somebody on, get to know this and blow them off. And it's like, if they didn't have enough enough Twitter following, he would literally just, not that, because he didn't care about content. He didn't care about character. That's the thing. He didn't care about what Adam was saying. He only cared about the fact that many ears were tuning in, and he thought he was going to get a famous gig. And so he didn't care. Adam talking like logistics with him is way over his critical thinking skills. He just doesn't even have that ability, and nor does he want it. He doesn't want to get dragged down in the details of reality. And it's very clear now, like now he's kind of backed into a corner, but it's literally, the fact, I think some of their followers, or it was Anne on one of her scopes, was saying, they were fired from YBA. I'm like, fired? And I actually replied back to the person, I'm like, you actually have to work and get paid to be fired. You have to receive some money. Like, this is a volunteer position that you were doing for the service. And I don't know if it would have gone off. I think Spy, maybe Adam would think differently. If Anne had never gotten involved with Bill, I think that the show would have petered out before it even has.
I'm not really sure, because
what do you
it's
think?
A good question. You'd have to academically look at it. But if you recall, the first foray into this was Bill and Wayne Dupree.
That's true.
Together.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I forgot about that.
That quickly went to hell because Wayne wouldn't take orders from Bill, and Bill was like, "Well, I can I can do more on my own. I'm not splitting my audience. And that didn't end well. Wayne does not like Bill, and that's something he said many times publicly, including on my show.
Well, I love. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, Wayne. You love Wayne?
I was just going to say I love Wayne Dupree. I was actually on his show the day after the election. That's how cool that guy is. He let me talk and just huff and puff, and he made a clip out of it and everything, and he put it on his, and he used it as promo. So I thought, and I'm actually a supporter of his on the Patreon as well. So if you haven't checked it out, go to Wayne Dupree and check out his show, because that's the other thing about it. There's like Wayne Dupree outclasses Bill Mitchell by a mile. There's no comparison. The guy he's just a wonderful, kind-hearted fellow, and he's completely sincere. And he's a loyal guy.
He's a loyal guy. I mean, he'll push back on the president where Bill doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And sometimes he kind of misses key details, but that's to be expected if you don't work your whole life in this whole thing. That's why he brings on guests that can challenge his way of thinking. And I've been on a couple times. I've enjoyed talking to him. But it's not something I seek to do. Like a lot of times people say, hey, can you come on this podcast? My answer generally is no. And unfortunately, that's because my experience for 11 months of doing Bill Mitchell's show put such a cramp in my style as far as like getting my kids, ready for bed and having them stay downstairs so they didn't come up to the office and make noise and, like raised $10,000 a month for himself. And the way he broke off his relationship with Wayne, the way he screwed Kerry Kellerman over, and the way he systematically got rid of people that he thought didn't bring in viewers. He didn't like Katya Lee. He didn't like Kerry Smith. There's a lot. He got mad and wanted Jack off the show. He told me Jack doing his own thing. He has too many followers now. Jack ended up with the same amount of Twitter followers, and that triggered Bill. And he says, Jack's getting too conspiratorial. We can't have Jack on anymore. And I was like, oh.
This from the guy who's pushing Q every day, all day
now
today.
I mean, I'm going to release it eventually, but I have all these Telegram messages in the group that we were in, the YVA group, where he's just like telling Brendan, whatever his fucking name is, you can't talk about this, you can't talk about that, you can't talk about any conspiracy theories, we don't do conspiracy theories, blah, 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 blah. Holy shit. What's he doing now? I mean, we're at the end of the road.
Well, I can guarantee that if you had been doing the same thing but working for Wayne, and volunteering, even if you didn't get paid any money, at the very least you'd know you were appreciated.
Yeah, Wayne's a lot like me, and the worst part is trying to as a career, and it really hurts Wayne in his soul that he has to fundraise to do this. But if he doesn't mention it, it's going to drop off.
Right.
So, I mean, Wayne does it the right way. I mean,
exactly.
He tries, he's doing the advertising, he's doing the breaks in the show. He does everything Bill should have done. Bill's too fucking lazy.
Well, as a person that didn't know Adam at all. I mean, Adam, I met you at the Dixie meetup. Yeah. I thought the way Bill always said it, I thought that the money that we were sending him, for YVA, he said, send us to CPAC, send us to do this, send us, if you like our co-hosts, they need to make a little bit of money. So he was basically using, particularly you, Jack, Harry, and whoever else was on there. And it wasn't a lot on my end, but it was enough to where when I, look back, I wasn't just sending to him, but that's where it was all going. And it's like,
oh yeah, yeah, no money went to anyone.
And so when I found that out later, I found that out way before Dixie MAGA, because I had built a Twitter relationship, kind of like maybe Spy with Ginger with Carrie. And so because she was on the show, and then I would chat with her. So we talked. So I knew what a scumbag he was before the Atlanta, but I never just said anything. I told Brian, and we just said, we're on the show, Adam, Ann was there.
No, Carrie came to me long before that. Unfortunately, I think it was after the Bull Moose thing, after the inauguration, and I got to say, she just started. I think she was trying to bring it up, and I thought she was talking about stylistic changes to the show and wanted me to kind of like back her up. I've talked about this before, and I was like, I don't care. I'm not getting paid. I don't plan on doing this much longer. So I really should have been more cognizant of what she was talking about, because she had put a lot of time into it by then. But not only did he not give any money to Carrie Kellerman or anybody else that was doing the show, he had them all purchasing equipment, green screens, new computers, ring lights.
I found all that out.
He wanted all that.
Later, I was shocked. When she told me all this, I was so hesitant. I didn't know you. So, for me to say something to first meet you at Dixie MAGA and everybody wanted to take their picture with Bill, notice I'm not in a single picture with him because I knew what a...
Neither am I.
No. And I also knew when I saw the VIP room and all that, I kind of already knew the whole thing, but I thought, well, it's not really my place. Everything seemed on the surface, right, to be going okay. So one of the things, Spy, that happened was in July, the Dixie MAGA was planned, I don't know when it first started coming out, June or whatever. And then,
late June.
Yeah, and then June. It just grew, like Adam has alluded to before. And a lot of people think, as Adam said, that Dixie MAGA was because it was in the South, in Atlanta. But it wasn't. It was because Adam had Dixie Cup Nation. And one of his original shows, he talks about the inaugural and the Dixie Cup Nation. And it's a long story, but how the Dixie Cup started, and he has his red cup. So this is what that started with. And so because of Adam's following and because of all that, and partly, Jack ended up coming and stuff, it just grew. They changed venues a couple times to the point of where, hey, we didn't know if there was going to be another one, any other meetups. And so my husband and I flew across country to go meet everybody. And so one of the interesting things about this was that there's a lot of people on the West Coast, such as yourself, myself, right, that couldn't come to that one. And there was a person at the time, which will be named nameless, who was a big scoper, and he was involved in this meetup. And everyone in the scope was like, who's going to do, we need something in, the West Coast. And this person was like, hey, Jen, you should do something. Look at all the California people, look at all these West Coast people. And I'm like, I'd consider it. And then I thought about it, and I was getting literally DMs about, will you consider doing this? And there's another person, Spy, you haven't met, who's replied to some of the tweets today. His name is Dan Brickman, and he was a real big scoper at the time as well. He was part of the original group. He's very busy with his work, but he tries to check in when he can. So he basically, I don't know how we involved Dan. I think I asked Dan to maybe make some things for the event because that's what he was. And so that's kind of how this whole thing started. So we announced this California one in July. Okay. Today, Medic is claiming, so if anybody couldn't make, and the reason too is that, even though, just to give people time, and also so that if people wanted to come to the West Coast, they could save money. And a lot of people were feeling really stressed that they couldn't make it across the country due to finances going to Atlanta from the West Coast. And so we said, hey, we're going to be doing one. And I had asked the person, is it okay? It's great. That was fine. He was closer to that one. We announced the California one. And then again, I had no idea that Adam or anybody, this is July. I don't even know if Adam, were you even thinking about the coalition at that time? Even a blink?
No.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Ooh.
See? So this was all just, it literally was something to get together and find a way. And so how I think we got Dan involved, now that I'm thinking, is Dan was going to make some stuff, but he was thinking about running for out here. He had talked about it at the time. His work was a much different place at the time. A lot of things were, he was in a different spot. So we thought, hey, why don't, you know what, let's do this. Let's make it a hybrid. So we'll have an event where we have candidates, up and coming candidates. It wasn't an election year. It was an off year. Maybe some candidates that were going to be promoted, have our sitting congressman come. And then maybe, Dan would do his like announcing party. But then Dan didn't end up deciding to run, but it was myself, my husband, and Dan. And so we were the three organizers. And I said, what should we call it? And so right at that time was right around somewhere Trump did his funny COVFEFEFEST tweet.
COVFEFE, yeah,
And
right, yeah.
Adam had printed for the Dixie Cup Nation. Adam, this is another thing that no one knows about Adam. He basically tagged COVFEFE on us. He shipped them out to all of us. We purchased them. I mean, he did so much for the Dixie Cup Nation, which was a lot of work for all his followers. My husband and I still wear them. We love the shirt. I had it on the other day. And that's another thing he purposely gave.
Yeah, don't talk about that in front of my wife. That was not fun.
I know. That's the thing, Spy. Nobody knows that side of Adam. Like in that sense, they see this, he's so good. So he did all that. Okay. So then today, Medic is going on about this being a coalition event. So the thing that I will tell you, because it's too long, Spy, to go into everything, is that Medic had been in contact with me. There is a scope he did, and it's not the one Smooch is thinking of, because Smooch was mentioning it, where he and I had like a 2.5-hour conversation. But I now know, looking back, we had talked many a time because he was on the West Coast. Okay, he was the closest scoper to the West Coast. I had done a few little scopes here and there, Spy, but not a lot. Okay, right. And he, being on the West Coast and still being part of our group, was looking forward to the meetup. Well, then somebody said, well, why don't you guys, he said that he and Denise were going through, so he after mine and so mine were 13. So he called me asking me but now it was just a lie. It was all because I think months in advance now, he'd been planning on sabotaging our event. And there's many things that go into this. And his wife was very, very at the head of it. And he would always say to me, well, my wife, I won't say her name, says blank, blank, and blank. And she says this, and she doesn't like this about Glenn and this about Glenn. And here's the thing. They were already, like Adam says, Glenn, when they started this with Glenn was not part of the coalition at that time. So
right, yeah.
Okay, so they started programming me thinking that, hey, I'm going to flip sides. But at the same time, I didn't really know that Medic was so tied to Ann until way later. I didn't know. So innocently, I'm being nice. So is my husband, giving him all these details. But I think the more details they did, I gave them on certain things, thinking that it would help them for their event. They were actually using it as an intel. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, no doubt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. And just to clear, I don't mean to cut you off because I'm really enjoying this, but just to make this clear to everybody, Dixie Cup Nation, that's your baby, right, Adam?
Yeah.
Completely, 100%.
That's my misshapen, ugly baby that I've had for a while. Yeah.
And these events were all put on by you and had nothing.
No. Well, only Dixie Cup Nation event that was put on by me. And my friend at the time, Joey, who lived down in Atlanta, that was a brainchild of a very few people that, to get everybody together that listened to me on Saturday night and all that other shit. But this Fest came out of that, kind of in a different iteration of, okay, well, why don't you guys on the West Coast do something like that?
Right.
Not necessarily related to me at that point. But Dan, Brickman, who we're talking about here, is also out in California. He was there in Atlanta as well. So that's kind of like the way things started cooking, And then I remember talking to you, Jen and Brian.
Mm-hmm.
about that, and you guys were like, I just never ever forget the saucer, wide as saucer eyes. There are 500 people in this vicinity that is built for maybe 150.
Mm-hmm.
All kinds of shit going on, just insane. Roger Stone and Pastor Burns screaming and yelling, and people everywhere trying to sell books. And I can just remember a little bit of hesitation on your part, and I was just my advice to you at that point was like, no, don't try to replicate this. This is a one-time thing. Do if you guys want to do Cali, do something just cool, do something Cali.
I remember that.
And I told the same thing to Dan, and it was just like, to totally forget what you're looking at right now, because it's overwhelming. I mean, it was overwhelming. We had security staff everywhere. We had, I can't tell you what it's like to try to get like 489 people into basically one restaurant and the parking lot in front of it, and a tent. I mean, it was insane. So we didn't want to replicate that. I didn't want to take any responsibility for it. And Jen and her husband, Brian, and Dan just took it all on themselves to do this.
But let me put it this way. Just to make this clear to everybody that might be listening right now, this had absolutely nothing to do with MAGA Coalition. Had nothing to do with Bill Mitchell. It had nothing
Didn't
to do.
exist.
It had, but there was no organization being done by anyone outside of who you've just discussed.
And tried to inject yourself into it.
Right, but the idea, the people that were behind it was all either you or related to you, and it was that family outside of before MAGA Coalition even existed. And the only involvement that people like Praying Medic had or Ann Vandersteel was they're trying to either horn in on it or they were calling you up for information.
Yeah, I mean, that's a perfect way to describe it, because I couldn't remember exactly how Ann Vandersteel, who I didn't know that well until I met her at the first technical meetup that we had, which was in Queens, New York, or earlier in the summer, maybe a month earlier. And next thing you know, she's like inserting herself into like this quasi MC role at my event in Atlanta. And then all of a sudden, when she got word of the California event, she started calling, unsolicited, calling Jen. And then she told me on a pre-production one night when I was doing the Mitchell show with her, she's like, oh, I talked to Jen. We got this great idea. We're going to have this high-class California event. It's going to be remarkable. We're going to do $100 tickets. And I'm like, oh, okay.
And I about flipped out because you went on Scope on your typical SNL and someone was asking you, and you had just got off the phone with Ann. Meanwhile, she had totally planned our entire event without any of our knowledge. In fact, she totally twisted, because Dan was on with that Scope, because we all would listen to Adam on Saturdays and it was like, it was a ritual, it was the SNL. And so the thing is that this was all done out of goodwill to get people together that were like-minded, because even though you think, right, oh, you live in a red state, a lot of people feel like, I don't live in a red state, obviously, but if you live in a red state,
nor do I.
No, but people still feel isolated to come out and say that they're really for Trump in the same way because of such backlash, whether they're their job or whatever. So what's funny is a lot of this was to get people together. And then when Dan went to, Atlanta, we wanted to try to support. Dan was part of this group that would Scope called 4D Chess. Base Chica was another one. She's there. Of course, Adam. And so then we hoped that we could get everyone to California given enough time. And if a lot of the fam wanted to really meet Adam from his SNL, his Dixie Cup. And so that's why we thought, and we were literally just thinking of it being a fam meetup, because that's what it initially was before the Atlanta one went big. So what Adam's talking about is I'm like, hey, I don't have connections to like Roger Stone and, famous people. I mean, Sky, I'm just like this everyday average person. I have no connections to anyone famous. So it's like, how, I was feeling a little pressured but who I was feeling pressured by was Anne. So Anne started working on me in Atlanta saying, oh, I can get, this person, I can get this person. And I was like, well, let me just see, but I actually thought that that's what maybe Adam wanted, or that was his expectations. And so that's when Adam had the conversation, and Dan and I and Brian kind of came back and were like, oh, okay, that really wasn't Adam's thinking, because see, she's trying to insert herself, right? So right. Dan reminded me today I totally forgot about this, Adam. He put it out in a tweet. And he CC'd you or added you, but you get a million mentions, so I'm sure you didn't see it. That basically, I forgot that our initial conversation was that she wanted all the proceeds that come from the event. She wanted half of them. See, we were
half of them. Yeah.
To go
half to YVA.
Yeah. And she would have us on the show, and she would give us some guest speaking appearances as many times as we wanted.
Typical multi-level marketing
and I'm thinking,
technique.
And see, the one thing, Spy, I will tell you is that while with Medic, I didn't have the same senses as some other people did. I didn't really wasn't negative, but I really wasn't. I was just okay. I didn't have a visceral reaction or anything.
Right, yeah.
But
the difference there is that he's more thoughtful. He's been doing a lot longer. He's a long-con kind of guy, whereas I think Ann Vandersteel is more like, she's looking for the short-term, quick buck that she can get, whatever. And she's kind of like very obvious and out front. And the fact that she would do that she would speak to Adam using your voice and then speak to you using Adam's voice as if you guys had already had this discussion. I totally get a mental picture of that. And by the way,
I had no idea it didn't happen, right? So I'm stuck in the middle until Dan calls me up and it's like, hey, listen, man, Jen and Brian are freaking out.
And I'm just going to
I'm
just going to throw this out here real quick, just so everybody can in the room and whoever listens to this afterwards, all this information can be easily verified, right?
The majority,
like you've got, go ahead.
The majority of it, at the time, I mean, these were phone conversations, but it was a conference call with myself and Dan at the time. And, but the thing that's interesting is that I have original emails where her and I were chatting back and forth. And the thing is that I basically told her I didn't have a great sense. I didn't want someone coming in and having that I didn't know, having control over an event that it was going to be mine, my husband, and Dan's input. I didn't know her. She wasn't fam. See, that's the thing that I think everybody has the piece too, from my perspective. I met Adam. I was doing this for fam. That was the only, I had very pure, probably a little too naive, Sky. I was basically Spy. I was just literally just very naive about it. I just was literally doing it because I thought it would be great. And initially people were like, oh, there'll be 50. And then when Atlanta grew, Anne's like, well, how many people can you have? And this other person, Joey, can you have up to 300? Can you have up to 400? And let me tell you something. The other thing that I didn't want was I wanted to make the event accessible to the everyday person, because $100, if you're coming here, even if you're flying, let's say from Utah or some other place, I don't know, I'm just making this up. If you buy a plane ticket or you drive or you have to get a hotel and you have to buy in for the event, it was supposed to be just a meetup. It wasn't supposed to be like this big extravagant ball. So
it's just for family. Family, basically, you want to have a picnic with family. You just want to have a good time with families. This wasn't about making money.
It wasn't. Right? And a lot of people couldn't afford it. So I was like really, really hesitant. I mean, it was really, really stressful to, I told her flat out though, no. And Dan and I had this conversation offline. We both didn't get a great feeling. And Adam knows this. Like, I just had a really bad sense. And I was like, why is she so invested? Right? What is this? Because she didn't watch Adam's SNLs. She was never part of the family. She only started coming on YBA not that far before Dixie MAGA. I mean, it wasn't that long before. Then suddenly, and then she kept saying, well, we can plan these all around the country then. Right?
Oh yeah,
That was her role. And there was another girl that's no longer really part of our group, but she just went her own way. There's not really bad feelings, who did a Texas one that Smooch has shown pictures of. And she had told her, because I know she had told me that she could get Sean Hannity, and had told this person at her event. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that this person was pulling. And now I look back about it all, all these scammers, literally a ton of scammers were converging on California in November. And the thing is, they were so angry, not just because of the coalition stuff, but they were so angry at the fact that when Adam left the show, the viewership went down, their donations went down. A lot of us, which was all Adam, left. So basically, that's what I feel that their animus is. It's not, this coalition is an excuse, but to them, it's personal at Adam, because they feel like their grift, right? And now, right, here's the thing. So their initial grift of getting money basically went away after Adam left and good people left. But now you have this Adam coming back again, really interrupting their full-blown huge grift with this Q thing. And that has just sent them all over the edge. I mean, literally over the edge. And Medic is the one, and his wife is, he is very thin-skinned. If you were to ask me who you could get to the most, who is the most cunning, it's the wife. He is more thin-skinned, I believe, just from my interactions. And one of the things that people don't know is when he was on his way, as he talked about Adam tonight in his little meetup thing, he went to the pre-dinner. He was abused. People were abused. I'm like, abused? What do you?
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
Takes an abuser to know. I'm like, abused by what? And I heard him in the phone. He didn't know he had his phone on, because I could see him driving around kind of looking for the place. So I called, and he never picked hood. I think he thought I was connected. He was just freaking out. It was something that I'll never forget. He was dark. And it was, it wasn't the language. He was using a bunch of profanity. It wasn't the profanity. It was the darkness and the intensity that he had in his voice. He was mad. Now, mind you, I have no idea that all this is going on behind the scenes and that he's just coming. And when he says, oh, he decided not to come, I have so many people that were there on Friday, and so many things all weeks by that he was doing. And trying for weeks and weeks, looking back, to try to pull and split the group away. And it started with scoping about 0 Hour. It started way back. I mean, this is months, and he used James R., and there's a whole pile-on of all these people. And I'm glad that they're all coming out against Q.
For those that don't know, I've always sort of found this part of the story fascinating. Can you, either Adam or Jen, can you elaborate a little bit about this bomb threat dream that he had, or the gunning down?
Shooting, the shooting dream, yeah.
Now, what event was this at, too?
This is the event Jen and Brian and Dan held. This is the Cali event. So at some point, if you read my Twitter thread, you'll see that it didn't happen overnight. I mean, I've rebuffed him several times on things, so he knows where it's going here. He ain't getting me on board for any of his grifts. So it wasn't until wait a minute here. Yeah. I'm trying to line this up time-wise. And discovered, let's see. Yep. And discovered after the Miami meetup, which was after the Atlanta one, but before the California one, that there was not going to be any $10,000 a month salary for her husband, the vice president of the MAGA coalition, because we only had $12,000 in donations, and I wasn't about to give that money to him. I told him that the officers would not be accepting a salary for the time being. And he flipped out, and Ann flipped out, and they said, okay, we want out. We want out of the MAGA coalition. I'm like, okay, great. I'll find a couple new board members, and we'll move on. And they're like, no, you can't do that. It's like, oh, yeah, I can't? Why not? And they're like, well, John has control of the bank account. And I'm like, that would be illegal because I'm the president and I don't have access to this account. And those are publicly accepted contributions filed under an FEC account.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, so he opened up with his personal banker in Florida, a Bank of America account, which I had no access to. And so, once he realized he was up Schitt's Creek, he just wanted to get out. They wanted to get out clean. And so that's when I got my lawyer involved. And that's when, I talked to Glenn. And that's when we shut them down because they were trying to close out an account with $12,000 in it. That was raised through the MAGA T-shirts, the MAGA rings that Hassine had donated, people that had given through PayPal links to the coalition really early on. So they wanted to take that money. They tried to steal that fucking money. So I essentially saved them from going to jail by not acquiescing on the request to close the account, bring a lawyer in, bring in the FEC and the IRS, and go to Chase Manhattan in New York and legally switch everything over so that our bigger donors could actually give the money. So they knew then that there was going to be $130,000 to $40,000 coming into that PAC, and they were furious that they couldn't get their hands on it. They were just furious.
So now we're starting to we're getting to the meat and the potatoes.
This is where it really gets ugly because now they're going to think, okay, now we got to take them out.
That's it. And they tried, Spy. I mean, they tried.
Everything you could try, they tried.
They tried. I mean, they called me right after this. Now, mind you, I didn't know any of this was going on behind the scenes. Adam was very quiet. And here's the funny thing. They kept accusing for months that Adam was planning the event and that, Adam and I had all these phone conversations. I had talked to Adam at Dixie MAGA. Mm-hmm. And then I had talked to him one time. Okay, I think not even since Dixie MAGA did I talk to him. So mind you, I'm not talking to Adam this entire time. I don't hardly know him. I just met him there.
Well, Jen, why don't you tell everybody what I don't like to do?
Talk on the phone.
There you go.
That's the number one thing. So the funniest thing is I'm thinking this is just insanity. So the funniest thing is that I'm getting these, it was Crusader Force, who now everybody knows Carrie Lockhart. She was the one that was, quote unquote, the treasurer, and I got all those phone calls at him about, the same panicking that she was doing to you. She called Brian and I, and she was Brian remembers those phone calls. We're listening to this. This is like deja vu. And if we only had something to thinking ahead, but we had no idea it was going to get this crazy to record. So
you asked her to be treasurer. Remember that detail?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. And then I'm like, really, this seems kind of. So what's funny is that, I'm getting a little bit of this. Then suddenly I get, this phone call from Ann. And I'm like, what's going on, And so Carrie starts telling me this whole thing that, and Carrie and I had talks by. Now, Carrie was one of the organizers, and I take no credit away from her for the original Dixie MAGA. She did a lot of legwork. So her and I were communicating because I was trying to pick her brain about successes and issues that she had or how she went about doing things for the Dixie so I could replicate it for California, okay? Or not replicate, but figure out, logistics.
Avoid some of the pitfalls you might have had.
Yes. So we had talked. So we had been communicating. So the other person in this whole mix, which came in later, was Hassine, who was initially part of the coalition, I actually had talked to him more than I had ever talked to Adam, because he lives in the nearby area to me, and he knows that we were doing the event, wanted to make a contribution. So I call him and I say, what is all this stuff going on? Because I have no knowledge of anything. I didn't even know really that the coalition was in any issues or that Ann and them left until I got a call from Carrie, multiple calls. Message. And says, Adam hasn't returned. This is the funniest thing. Adam didn't respond for a week we've been trying to reach him via text message. He won't respond to DMs. He won't respond to texts, and he won't return phone calls. Meanwhile, Adam is the other night, a week ago, reading off his Telegram chat saying, I really am trying to get in touch with you. I really would prefer a phone call. I don't like this. So the complete opposite is what they're telling me. Now, mind you, I didn't know that this Telegram chat existed until a week ago, but I know what they were telling me. And I'm thinking, this is so weird. I have DM'd Adam about political stuff, and within like 48 hours, even though he has hundreds of DMs, and especially in the day, he would still reply like, hey, or it would have like a thing, my DMs are really busy, or he'd get on scope. You're part of a partner and you can't get a hold of him. This just didn't reason right. Plus just so many other things, how we just walked away. I'm like, well, what did you walk away from? Well, why? I never got the answer of why they just quit. But I just got, Adam's a crook. They want to steal money. Here's the thing. They wanted to set it up. It's not above board. And so we all just walked away. I'm like, what's not above board? And again, no answers, but I'm talking to Carrie. So then I called Brian, and then Brian, this is really the first time I had talked with Adam outside of meeting him in the hot box of the Dixie MAGA, which was, what's going on? And so I knew he kind of gave me a little bit of and even then he didn't really say anything negative. He gave me the very brief details that I needed to know. And, I just went on my way. I didn't know undertow that all this stuff was going on and that they were like the monies. I didn't know any of this stuff. So I'm just here thinking, hey, let me plan this event. Literally. But the dream that you're talking about was medics started bringing in. So one of the things that was a very stressful concern to people was Antifa, right? Because people see, I'm way down in Southern California. I don't live anywhere near Berkeley, and I don't live near downtown LA. But on the news, when they'd have all these, the Proud Boys were out there a lot, and they were basically always showing, the Proud Boys were seeking out some of that stuff. And they were going down into downtown LA, and they were going to Berkeley. So people in other places, even other people, they don't know where I live, right? I wasn't giving the location of the event purposely for that reason, okay?
Right.
Until ticket holders, and even then ticket holders only got the location like 24 hours or 12 the day of. But they told them what airport. But I mean, an airport is large, right? So this is what I was doing. Well, Ann and them knew where I had lived because we had had conversations. And so suddenly they picked the date and all this stuff comes out. And Ann had known that, people were a little stressed about, and security and this Antifa thing and coming to California. I have no knowledge of this, but suddenly it could have even been a Cerno person in the group. Somebody leaked something that there was Antifa Day was November 4th. Now, what are the odds that I set a meetup up in July and that the day I set the meetup, I have Antifa Day? And so, they were threatening, and I was getting massive DMs. But now looking back, a lot of the DMs, some of them were legit and fam members and stuff, just very concerned, very nervous. And I understand they don't live here, so I couldn't really describe it to them. But secondly, some of it now I know was a ton of that medic Ann's following, all their following were hitting me. Now, mind you, I didn't know there was a split in the undercurrent. I'm just going on. So Brian and I beefed up so much security. I mean, we had a professional security team. Adam can
It
attest to
was
this.
unbelievable.
I mean, this is like, I mean, when I say security, we're not talking mall cop, we're talking like security. Like we had to fight too to get it in California. Well, you understand this. You were talking about it. Like to allow the security in the area, that kind of security, they were freaked out a little bit at the facility because they were like, what are you guys doing? Because we were just worried. But they don't. And here's the thing. Medic knew this. He knew all this. He had phone conversations with me, and he knew it was going to cost us more out of pocket. And my husband and I ended up paying for that ourselves just to keep everyone safe and feeling good. And he knew this. And yet I know he was part of this pile-on. Which is, just tell me what a godly, we know this, sick person this is. So it's like he knew all the stuff, the details of the event. He knew all sorts of stuff. Then the week come to the event. So that was one issue, was the security. The other thing, and the Antifa thing. Then the other thing was this other guy who started scoping and all this was James R., somebody that was from Hawaii that,
How quickly explain to Spy how James R. afforded his way over from Hawaii to California.
Yes. So I helped him, and everyone in the fam. I got donations because he said, oh, I can't afford it. He said he'd never taken money from anybody. He was hesitant to give me his PayPal. And here's the thing, is that a lot of these people that are moaning, I worked really hard to get them funds to come over here. In fact, Adam himself,
they all took money.
All these people, money. There's a whole group of them that are still in that following, took money to come to the event, and then they didn't come to the event. But James R. is the one I take them after anybody because he's the closest. He decided he wanted to come last minute. It was like 2 weeks out. I mean, we're talking 2 weeks max with a plane flight from Hawaii. So within less than 10 days, I had to try to help him find a reasonable plane flight, plus get him accommodations. I comped his ticket for him, which I comped the ticket. That means somebody absorbs that cost, okay? So
right,
I said, listen, if you can get here and I can get you enough donations, yet he doesn't show up to my event because of this whole, he's being picked on. No one picked on him. In fact, people in our fam were knocking on his hotel room door trying to find out what was going on and why he wasn't coming, and he wouldn't answer. I think he just came. He says he didn't.
He was a coward.
Yes.
I mean, he's a coward because this guy, I remember somebody sent me his scope like a day before or 2 days before he left to come to California. This guy's on the beach in Hawaii talking about how I could walk on water or something. I mean,
exactly.
With that, without Adam, where would everything be? And I don't give a shit about that stuff. But let's be honest, people here. I mean, how did he go? The same thing with this Christian Lamar character. I gave money so he could come out to California, who I'd met, and I got him to Miami. He was Atlanta too. Periscope, his Twitter account for him. Never had a bad word to say about this kid ever, and all of a sudden he starts tweeting about how I am. Appreciate the for the whatever. I'm like, wait a minute, you took my money to go to California. To go to the event that we paid the money for you to go out there for. A lot of them are like that. Pepper Potts is another one. A bunch of us bought her an entire furniture set and washer and dryer for her apartment after she had whatever, some goddamn thing came up.
Yes.
They used it in the worst way possible, and they showed who they are, and now they're sorry.
So just for clarity, this event, the thing that happened between the changeover in MAGA coalition and this event, they're kind of butted right up. So this is really close. So a lot of the bad blood is happening, and that's why this thing is. I'm just trying to really establish why it went so bad. So obviously you can tell that Ann Vandersteel and Praying was in the divide the family.
Okay, is that that everybody gave and money and just weaponized it. I mean, they just weaponized people's good and about our group. We were a very, at the time, still a caring group who, if someone needed, their dog was sick and they didn't have money, they send them that. If someone was out of work, we would help. If it had a health issue, I mean, there were so many. You would just want to help them out of good. Look, I'm planning the event with my husband. We both work full time, and these people, I'm working with them not only to get the money, but to help them. To coordination of getting older was a lot. It was very stressful in that they were having to get in the way of something for them. Really took it personally, just kind of my name of the coalition. However, I board, and he also and John, and they were out talking on the phone. He thought, and one of the things that I can back this up with is he interviewed a candidate who is no longer, didn't make it. That's a whole nother thing. Kevin Kavanaugh, who did come to our event, and he thought that he was going to have some role in that coalition. Okay, so Anne had promised what conversation. Adam, I didn't even know Glenn was even involved. I didn't know anything, Spy. All I know is that I'm talking to Dave. I think Dave is on good terms. Dave is on good terms with Adam, and all this is fine. I have no knowledge of any of this. And Dave tells me that he's going to have some role. And what role is that? We all know now there was no role. There was no role that Dave listened. Again, I'm not saying he was lying. I'm saying that the plug and the whole thing went for the money of the followers, but really something in the coalition. That's why he all saying he's going to have a role, have a fest, supposed reviewing candidates. He never viewed Arizona. Suddenly he's interviewing candidates, but this stuff was going on. I never said a word. All they did all out, something didn't come awry, a single bad thing. But because at the meantime, Carrie tells me, you need to talk to John and Ann. I think for you to hear their side. I'm like, okay. So I set up see what was going on because it might affect your event. But again, Spy, I don't really story 2 ago that's the same thing we call something wasn't above our board. You know, my husband, what his motives are and everything. Someone's saying I have a bad connection. Can you guys not hear me?
It's a little bit off, but it's coming through pretty good. I mean,
Go Laguna Hill.
I have. Yeah, this is ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Periscope. But can I just interject for a quick moment here? So we have I'm just trying to sort of get this in my mind. So the whole coalition is falling apart. Ann Vandersteel, what she's been doing, it's all on L. He's playing nice with you, so that the family trying to poison that well and literally trying to destroy this entire event.
Yes, and I thought he released thing. I think.
Right. Mm-hmm. And we're almost up to the dream, right?
Yes. So week of this, and this guy now that I get tickets to come out here basically says, scopes and says that he had this dream.
No, I'll handle this.
Yes.
Because this was mine. The event.
Adam, I remember.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A dream. I don't suspect him of that. Who cares? Stop the train from going down an event that's been planned. But he got on that he had a dream.
Adam, of anything you're saying.
That's weird. I can hear fine.
Okay, so maybe ask somebody in the chat. I know we can hear. I'm just looking at the comments. Should I?
Hearing, I think 133. Oh, who else can't hear?
COVFEFEFEST.
Oh man, I really restarted.
33 and Gray Man down. No, Donnie's saying it. Kim is saying it.
Yeah.
All right. I'll cut up.
All right. So just to throw this out there, can everybody hear me in the room all right? Because I want to make sure it's the Periscope. Okay, you want to restart? But you can hear me okay, 33? Okay, I'm getting a lot of yeses now. You hear me. So it was basically that we just had, it just over buffers or whatever. It starts getting clogged up like a drain, I guess. So, okay. So now we're going to wait for Adam to come back, and we're going to Yeah, we were breaking up before. I was hearing that happen a little bit. So you're saying I'm in and out. Anybody else think that I'm in and out? Well, people are saying they hear me fine, better now. I can hear you. I can hear you perfectly. Okay, good. So we're just going to wait for Adam. This is getting really good. I'm so glad I decided to do this scope today. I had no idea this was going to happen, but it's fantastic. I really love how much detail we're getting to this story. It's really starting to fill in some of the blanks for me. So Adam has come back in the room, so he'll probably, it says I have one person waiting. Okay, there we go. Sorry. All right, so we got Adam, and we're just going to wait for Jen. I guess if I
Well,
was to ask,
I don't think Jen's going to jump on right away because 3 is the bad number.
here she is. Yeah, she's.
Okay, well, but it
We
might
only
not
have
work
two.
out.
We only have the two of you guys on. That's it. Just
No, but
me and you.
three meaning 2 and the broadcaster.
Give it a shot just to see how it goes. We'll ask the room how it's going. Welcome back, Jen.
Nah, then
I'll get on.
or I will. We're talking about Medic does a periscope where he says that my question cut off was there was a mass shooting right around the time of your.
Oh, people are going to have to do it. Why don't we finish up with you, Adam?
I'm gonna
If
get
that's all
off.
right. Just sort of.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
We'll see if that works.
Okay. All right, so we have just Adam and myself on the scope now. Is it any better?
What I'm going to do is say testing 1, 2, 3, and if everybody hears that clearly and uninterrupted, please press 1. 1.
Press 1. Oh, we got a thumbs up.
One. If you're hearing me, okay.
Yeah, we're getting lots of ones now. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Sometimes that extra person really kind of throws it off. So this is where it hits the crescendo. Whatever, there was some type of shooting around that time. I can't remember which one it was, but anyway, he has a dream and says that he has dreamt that the COVFEFEFEST, the California event she's talking about, will be the victim of a mass shooting, and many people will be murdered, and that, incredibly, he says he and James R. were the people that helped bring the shooter down.
Oh, come on. You gotta be kidding me. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yep, that's what he said. He said that James R. restrained...
Did they pray it away?
Yeah. James R. restrains the shooter from killing more people and tells Praying Medic to bar all the doors. And they worked as a team to save as many lives as they could. But many people died. And yeah, right before an event in California where people are already a little bit nervous. So, yeah, James R. definitely Steven Seagal, Doug. Totally Steven Seagal. Absurd. The whole thing was absurd, and it's recorded. And
so I guess if I was to ask one, like I think you probably want to get going pretty soon here, and I appreciate how much time you spent with me talking about this, Adam, because you filled in a lot of holes for me. But I'm looking for the motivation here for Praying Medic. Now I know why Ann Vandersteel is angry with you. I know you've cost her and her husband a great deal of money. You've left their show, so now you're taking your audience away. You're doing these independent things, and you've sort of, in Ann Vandersteel's mind, you've sort of stuck your thumb in her eye because Jen's not going for this. She doesn't want. This is for family. She's not here to make a bunch of money, and Grifton. Anne wants to make a bunch of cash, so she wants to take this on the road. She wants to do her multi-level marketing thing. So basically, what I'm saying is it basically, other than the fact that you sort of refuse to do anything with Praying Medic, and that birds of a feather flock together, that she was able to have and weaponize this relationship with Praying Medic? Because I guess I'm having a little bit of trouble. Why is Praying Medic going along with this grift Why is Praying Medic weaponizing his dreams, so to speak, and playing Trojan horse? What is his motivation? Like I can totally see you've cost these people thousands upon thousands of dollars on the other side of this equation. But Praying Medic, that part I'm having, why would he be so, after all this time, why is he so angry and out to get you guys? What was it, do you think, and what is his motivation for how he turned out in relationship to the MAGA
Oh,
coalition?
that's a longer
Oh, okay.
story,
All right.
but yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, if people want to go to my Twitter feed, they can read my 20 thread tweet on it. I mean, this is the guy that approached me on multiple fronts for scams, for grifts. Like, he was just total grift. He's been doing this forever. This is nothing new for him. I mean, it's been writing books about raising the dead. It's been writing books about astral projection, writing books about growing limbs back, and just I'll pray as long as you send a donation type of thing.
So
And
basically, because he was butthurt much, he was just going to get back at you, and he just found a fellow grifter in Ann.
well, no, what he really wanted was my audience at that point, because this is back in the day when Pasobic and I were pulling in 20, 30, 40,000 people on a single periscope, which at that point it wasn't a monetized situation. Right. So all he could see was, you're not translating these views into money. And it upset him greatly. Like, he'd constantly bug me all the time. He's like, people want to give you money. You need to let them give you money. And I'm like, dude, I'm not planning on doing this long. I'm just helping the president. I'm doing what I'm told. We're still following some campaign orders, blah, blah, blah. It never worked with him. He always had a different idea. And I turned several of them down. The first thing he wanted was a video warehousing URL, where we would just have a website where he could put his periscope, my periscopes, and maybe somebody else, and charge a prescription. So people would pay $9.99 a month to view all of our periscopes,
Right.
or videos. And I was like, no, that's insane. It's stupid, and I'm not doing it. And then he came back to me a couple weeks later, and he's like, well, I want to write a book about the election of Donald Trump, and I will handle the religious side of it, and I would like you to handle the political side of it. I'm like, no, that sounds really like a bad idea, and I'm not going to do that. And the final one was, I want to be on the board of directors of the MAGA coalition.
Okay. Now we're starting to get somewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
I
was
see.
right after the formation of it. And I said, no, I'm not giving you that, designation. And so then he said, well, I'll just talk to John about it, because he knew John Kruger was the one who set up the whole pack. So that is why he went to that Kelly Ward dinner, to the infamous photos that are popping up all over the internet.
Right.
He went to talk to John Kruger about becoming a member of the board, because he would like to be paid.
Right.
Well, this was pretty awkward, considering I wasn't going to pay John. I wasn't going to pay myself. I wasn't going to pay anybody. And when the donors that came on board said that they would donate, and they wanted to know what the admin costs were, I was like, well, they're going to be bare minimum. I'm not going to pay myself. I'm not going to pay my board. And frankly, that was a selling point for the money that came in. And that's also the bye-bye point for John Kruger.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's when Ann got really pissed off, because at that point, Ann owed $14,600 alone in tax liens on her home for sewage, garbage, and property tax.
I understand why he would be upset at you now, but I guess what I'm having trouble figuring out is, why is he going after other members of the family? Like, why is he interjecting himself, and he's trying to destroy this event? I mean, you didn't really have much to do with that, right? Am I correct?
Yeah, I guess you never could figure that out.
So I guess what I'm saying is that, to me, it appears like Ann Vandersteel had her finger in that, and she was using him because they had come up with some kind of side deal, which is what Jen, I think, was alluding to.
Yeah. You're totally right about that. And I'm being obtuse here.
Oh.
Yeah, you were being spot over target. I wasn't really thinking in
Oh.
lines of what you're talking about, and at that point had conjoined efforts with him, but they were twofold. One is to kind of like F over us, but also kind of shore up this image that Bill Mitchell was right.
I see.
And YBA is the future. We don't need Adam. We don't need, because at that point, Hassine was out the door. And so everything started to like fall apart for them. You had Ginger McQueen, you had Brian Hassine.
Glenn Herman comes in to take over. He cleans everything
Yeah,
up.
they didn't like Glenn at all. And he doesn't really mind to admit that, but he was pretty harsh as well because they tried to bring him in as the IT guy, and they got him in close enough that he learned a whole lot about them that they didn't want him to know before they realized that this wasn't going to work out. It was all about the money, man. It was just all about the money. And more we pushed back saying we were not going to take a dime, the angrier they got. It just, both Ann and Dave, Pragmatic Dave Hayes, like if you talk to them about doing something and not giving money to them or making money off what you're doing, they get really, really upset. It's like a union style mentality. It's like you're a scab.
Yeah, grifter union.
Yeah, the grifter union.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
honestly, that's the way it felt.
There's no consciousness here. This is what I mean. There's good people, there's bad people, and these are the bad people. These are the ones that are looking out for themselves. And that's kind of the sense I'm getting this whole time is like your great offense was not wanting to rip people off. Your great offense was wanting to have some integrity, do the right thing, file the papers correctly, not rip anybody off, do what you say you were going to do. And they were like, you're getting in the way of us making thousands and thousands and maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars over the long haul. You never know.
Yeah, that's what the real issue here is. I mean, I've given up a ton of my time, a ton of travel, a ton of everything that I've tried to do with this coalition since the end of August, well, technically early September 2017, all the way to where we at, April 2019. So You're talking about, a pretty significant period of time. And the actual income that I have received is just a hair over $13,000. And that comes out to about $750 a month if you want to break it down. But that didn't come until everything was already taken out, and Sebastian Gorka had already given us back the $20,000, and it was stuck in operational expenses. So what most people don't realize is we didn't pay the full $60,000. We don't tell people that. The first time I've said this. They can't read the FEC reports correctly, so it was $40,000. So we got $20,000 back because he had left early. But yeah, I mean, I could look everybody right in the eye and say that all told, I have lost money. You wouldn't believe how much money I've lost since this whole thing started. But it doesn't. It may anger my wife a little bit, but it, to me, same thing with Glenn. We have to hold ourselves to a higher standard, or else it becomes kind of, I don't know.
You're good guys. Just face it, Adam.
Yeah,
but
I don't. We don't pose it that way. But I'm saying, like, this feels like something that's more than just a.
It's bigger than you, right?
Yeah. Yes, I don't know what the correct word is, man. At this point, at 3:30 in the morning in Eastern time, but I know that the word is, if it's not sacrosanct, it's at least elevated in importance in our lives. And we know that this is a very hopefully finite period where we can do better, be better people for a better result for the country. And then I'm legit going back into government. I am legit going back into, official campaign consulting, because I'll tell you, this stuff is no fun. At the end of the day, getting your cans kicked
I hear you, brother.
every day. I mean, I have been attacked for 20 years, essentially, as a Republican operative, but those were days where I deserved it. And it's not until you really try to do something altruistic, it's not until you really try to do something above board that you will become truly besieged. And those are the people that don't like being called out for what they're doing. So I understand why they're angry. It's not a mystery to me.
Well, I think not only now that you understand, but I think a lot of people that are going to hear this scope are going to understand it, because I got a much clearer picture of just exactly what was going down. And I just want to say, man, I really appreciate you. I appreciate all the effort you've done, and I know this has been a burden for the last couple of years. I kind of think that we're starting to get to the point where there's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. I think some people are going to end up paying a big price. And maybe when that happens, we'll have a party, a big party,
and someone will try to ruin it, but whatever.
Yeah, no. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But I'm just saying, like, I know it's late for you. It's like you said, it's 3:30 in the morning. So I don't want to keep you any longer.
No, I'm going to hop off. But I do want to say that I expect that we will be making some magic musically here too, because propaganda. I prefer propaganda that is fun for everybody to, get their minds around. I don't like the harsh kind of stuff. So Smooch has already given me the heads up that he plans on using your talents, and I already put 3 more tunes together.
Well, I'm looking
out of his pitch range. So they're all coming to you, man.
Well, I'm looking forward to feeling, to getting totally over this cold, because I really do want to get to work on this kind of stuff. I am 100% committed to keeping this momentum going. So again, I just want to tell you, I appreciate you opening up tonight. And just laying it out there, because I think, like I said, I think a lot of people are going to maybe re-listen to this, and they're going to have a much better idea of exactly what went down and what some of those motivations were. So with that, if there's anything else you'd like to say, Glenn, Adam?
I'll never get a tattoo, but if I did, it would be full disclosure, man. That would be my tattoo, but I'm never going to get one.
Full disclosure. No, I'm never going to get one either. Those days are gone for me. I almost got a rush tattoo. Yeah.
You did?
Yeah, I almost got a rush tattoo. Almost. I was very close. And then
it's okay if you're still living in Canada, but I'm not sure how that's going to fly down.
Well, my friend said to me, "What if they put out an album that sucks?" And I went,
"Oh, they did."
Only
like 11 of them now.
All right, brother. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. You go get yourself some sleep, and we'll talk again soon.
All right, you wrap it up. I'll listen in.
I will. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was Adam Gingrich of the MAGA Coalition. Once again, please, if you haven't done so already, go to MAGAcoalition.com, and you'll be able to hear that story. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start taking these periscopes, and I actually have a YouTube channel myself. So I think I have like over 200 subscribers at this point, yet I have 0 content there. But maybe this is what I'm supposed to do with it. Maybe that's why I've got sort of a little built-in audience over there. So I'll probably be taking all these periscopes and moving them over to the YouTube channel. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to give an opportunity. Somebody else wants to come in the room and sort of like we'll spend a few minutes. Maybe Doug, if you want to pop in, and we'll just kind of have a little chat to close out the show. If you'd like. If not, I can always... Oh, there we go. We got Jen's going to come back on. I appreciate that, Jen. Thank you for coming. She probably has something she forgot to say or that she wants to sort of sum up with that. Sorry, Jen, just one second. And again, I want to thank Adam once again for coming on. All right, Jen, how you doing?
Hey, I just wanted to tell you... Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Doug says Jen is a much better
Yeah,
choice.
right, Doug. That's true. No, I just wanted to say thanks for giving a platform. I've been, the guys know that I know the story, and I've offered to, clear it up for people in the past. I mean, Smooch I think a year ago when all this went down, or even more, did a scope. He reminded me today that he did that scope. Remember, I was joking with him when you were on, and I said, yeah.
Right.
And he said, yeah, remember, Jen, in the chat, you were on for that thing. And I did. And at the time, it was much more, it was more emotional for me. It was right after it. They kept attacking. It was like right after 2017, really early. I think it was the end of 2017, early 2018. And, you're just thinking to yourself, is this people going to let this go? Mind you, I didn't have all the pieces. I didn't, what you guys are hearing now and learning now, I had a little bit more, but not much. And I also never thought about the coalition being any of my personal business. It was like I supported the coalition 100% because they were my friends. I wanted them to succeed. I wanted to do something good for the president, but it had nothing, I didn't know anything more than what, we're talking about. But
right. I think it's long overdue that you go back onto the show, because I think your perspective has changed. You've gotten a lot more information, and of course even your temperament's going to be different. You're going to be much clearer thoughts. So I think maybe Smooch Panda, if you're listening, I think it's time for you to have Jen on your show, because that was fantastic. I got to tell you.
And, there's a lot that I just, it's coming back, especially talking with Adam. The funny thing is, someone had to send me that dream scope, because mind you, 3 days before the event, I'm running around like crazy and I work full time. And so I didn't have a chance to listen to scopes or anything that was going on. I mean, there's so many phone conversations, that week that I had with Medic, where he basically said, oh, I'm trying to get people for your event not to be empty. And when I asked him why, he never gave me a reason. There's all these things that it was just weird. But really why I came back on besides that, and, there's so many other things that I could go into with his character. I mean, one of the things that very few people knew, I think Dan knew, of course, I think it was just Dan and maybe one other person, is that right before, like a month before COVFEFE, my sister got diagnosed with cancer. I mean, thankfully, she's doing fine, but it was pretty severe. At the time, she was undergoing surgery. I was in the hospital helping out with family stuff. And he knew this. Medic knew this. Anne knew this because he told her. And yet he still knew everything I was going through and still decided to try to sabotage something. So that tells you what a religious person, like somebody says, have you ever seen him pray? What an evil, vindictive person. I mean, that someone's putting their heart out there. And that means, to me, that's why everybody knows the fact that he knew that, and all the stuff he did to sabotage going back. That's where, for me, that's why he is my most hated individual, because the God angle and all the interactions I had with him, I probably had more interactions than anybody, because he was really working me, looking back. I was being I didn't know that he was promised something by the coalition. This was just all my surmising. But I will say that, the coalition, they act like the coalition members, it's 3 people. It's always been 3 people. It was Adam, Glenn, and Brian. Then it's Adam, Glenn, and Ginger. And the coalition, they like to use the coalition as a attack word. Our fam was a group of people, feelings, and love of country and for the president. And there are some of us that have maintained those friendships. And these friendships, after Adam goes back into the political consulting world and after Glenn retires on his farm into middle of nowhere, some of these friendships are going to last. These are these are very, very deep friendships that formed out of all this chaos. And I think that is one of the main things but really also gets under their skin. And I look at it from a psychological perspective. It is about the grift, because you were asking Adam, and he gave you very concrete, factual reasons why.
Right.
But I do feel that there is, Followers, I used to give always to Adam. You give to Wayne Dupree, I give to the coalition, and I give to Adam because I know what Adam has sacrificed. He's got two young children that he's doing this for the good of them in the future. And I know Adam, and I've come to know him over 2 years, as like I've come to know some other people the same, like I've gotten to know Smooch and just many other people in our fam that maybe don't want to have their names named out there that aren't as public. And the one thing I will say is that Adam was able to build a following, not just off of political prowess, but because he has heart and he has a natural goodness to him and a natural ability to attract a following. Glenn, very opposite Adam in the sense that Glenn is a good person. Glenn will tell you exactly how it is. He's extremely loyal. And you know where you're going to stand with Glenn. You may not always 100% agree with either of them, but you always know where you stand with them. But Medic, not necessarily Glenn, was jealous. He's always been extremely jealous of Adam's ability to connect, I feel, on a human level with people. Adam was always able to connect with people, not over just politics, but whether it's joking on Dixie Cup Nation over music or funny things or having fun, like the songs, the parodies that you're seeing now. This was born out of the original Adam on Periscope. And I think that is something that he's not going to say himself, but I'm saying as a longtime follower and now friend of him, that I'm telling you that this is what it also comes out of. There is a following that Dave will never be able to sustain, a true following, because it's shallow. It's based on lies. It's based on a grift. It's never been based on anything real. The thing with these other people is it's all based on lies. And so they can never replicate that. So they have to tear it down. And so the authenticity of it is what is driving them mad as well. It is.
Well, that's what I think is the key right there. You said the word authenticity. I think what I've heard over and over and over again is that people were attracted to Adam because Adam was always Adam, and you knew what you got with Adam. And if he liked you, you knew he liked you because he connected. Same thing with Glenn. Glenn is a little bit more abrasive for sure, but you always knew who Glenn was. Glenn is authentic. Glenn does not put on a front. He doesn't pretend to be something that he's not. He's who he is. Where you got a guy like Praying Medic, he doesn't, like, I've watched a bunch of his scopes. When he laughs, he doesn't laugh. When he smiles, he doesn't smile. When he speaks, no truth comes out of there's nothing coming out of his soul that's real. It's all surface stuff. You know what I mean? Like, there's no heart in his laughter. There's no joy in his smile. There's no sincerity in his eyes, right? But what you have with these guys at the MAGA Coalition, and I think what I'm hearing you say is Adam is the same when you met him 2 years ago. He's the same today, and you can be almost assured that he will be the same person 10 years from today. And you'll probably still carry on those relationships. And I was just sorry I didn't want to interrupt you, but I really want to get this point down that you can, what's the word I'm looking for? I had it and then I lost it. But basically I was saying there are two kinds of people. This has been my experience throughout my whole life. There are good people and there are bad people. And I know that good people can do bad things, but they're good people. And there are bad people that can sometimes do good things, but in their core, who they are, at the center of it, is they're bad people.
And they can't replicate it. See, everybody has a different gift. Smooch Panda, when he's on the screen yelling from day one, when he had 10 followers, what is up, fam? That's the Smooch. He is that Smooch that you see on the screen when you meet that Smooch in person is the same. It's the same Smooch. Right. I can't say this, but for myself, I'm probably more reserved on a scope than I am, let's say, in person, just because especially if I'm like with Adam or Glenn or something, I don't feel necessarily as intellectual as they are about things. I can't come up and say the words sometimes as good as they can say them. So I would say I'm more self-conscious, but I'm very authentic in the sense that what you're hearing in my bumbles and not getting things out perfect is exactly who I am. I'm not.
But you're still you. That's the point I'm trying to make. You're still you. That's what I'm saying.
Yes. And that same person that wanted to throw great meetups and to have everyone come together is still who I am, despite being crapped on by literally a mound full of just trolls and horrible people. Out of it, I have really found some gems, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. Like, I wouldn't go back and say, oh, I wish I didn't do all this, or I wish I didn't know these people, because the gems that I have found across this country have been phenomenal. And I would never have had a chance to even talk with somebody like you or somebody like Smooch, or just meet different types of people, converse, have great conversations. And so for me, that is the takeaway in all this. You can keep attacking. They attack the coalition, but really what they're trying to do is they're trying to attack the followers because they can't replicate the followers. And that's why. Because the followers are, we're, like they said, they're a small pack. But because we have lost people along the way, people couldn't sustain the attacks, or they just get tired, they have busy lives, and they move on. But right. And some of it too is I've met these guys, so I know them, but I've also had a very core gut instinct from the first day, like, these are good people.
Right. I think Kim Boyd in the room said something very interesting. She said that medic fans love the facade, but it's not a real person. It's really sad, and I can really identify with that, because I think, like, you get a person like Ann Vandersteel, she can put on a smile and she can be nice to you, but you can't sustain it. Do you understand? Because it's coming from a place of, what will this, if I play nice, what will I get out of this in the long run?
Well, and I think Spy, because I did listen to Medic in the beginning because he was part of our fam. I see it that there's a lot of, and it ties into the Q thing as we've met you through the Q thing, is that
right.
Think about this in a weird way. No matter what in life, no matter your path, most people, even the people that live more on the edge, deep down on their core, at somewhere, people want some sort of certainty. They want to know that their future is going to be secure, that things are going to turn out good, that there's a greater meaning to them, that some of their struggles, whether it's sickness, whether it's illness, whether it's abuse, whether it's, whatever their life struggles are, whether it's their children, name a million things that everyday people have to deal with, just daily life struggles. And what Praying Medic does is he feasts off of people's fears by basically saying to you, I'm having dreams about, and this can heal. You can heal yourself, even if you have some illness. And yes, there is a certain part of the unknown that we don't know. You could call it God, you could call it the inner self, the soul, that will heal. People can heal themselves, that doctors are amazed all the time. There's unknown things. Yeah. But if you're really diagnosed with a stage 4, or you have a broken limb, you're not going to be able to grow that back. But at the same token, you're preying off of someone's insecurities and fears. And by somebody saying that they're having prophetic dreams, it's playing on people's deepest insecurities and everybody's fear. And so even if they know that that isn't true, the same thing with the country. People are very afraid that Trump was going to be impeached, or that they don't understand the process, that impeachment is a political process. They don't understand that. They think that it's unjust. And I think Trump represents for people a lot of injustices that occur in the world. Like he's the underdog, he's the good guy. And he is a person that is representing hope for America, and like he can do all this. They think he can do all this by himself. So you're praying, he is literally taking the psychological element of people's deepest fears and insecurities and elevating them to a level that people want to believe it. They want to believe it because they're already scared to begin with. And
people are trusting. I mean, deep down, people are trusting.
Yes.
And he should and I agree with 33 Rule. He should change. I think he should change his name to Praying Medic with an E, because that's perfect.
Well,
he prays on people. That's his whole thing.
Yeah, and people often got mad at Adam because they would come into his scopes and say, "Don't you have any good news? Don't you have any good news?" And Adam would sometimes have bad news to deliver about the state of affairs in Washington with the president. And those people didn't like the reality. Because why? Because it prays, they don't like the reality, not because of Trump, because it really prays, I don't think, because it preys on their own insecurities about where the direction of the world is heading. And so therefore, when you have somebody like Medic saying, listen, dangling the carrot, don't listen over here to this. This is stuff, I'm having prophetic dreams and I'm in touch with God. And remember, he started with religious element in that he used to be an atheist and then he found God and there's this whole other thing. That's how I see it. I see it as just a bunch of lost souls looking for meaning in things that they can't explain, and he's claiming to explain to have these meanings, and then somehow he's found a group of people that, like Trump supporters, that were very giving, and so he's just doing the grift because his other grifts, ran out on his other pathways. He only
people are trusting, right? Especially people that have that might identify as Christian. They're just trusting, and they want to believe that if you say to them, "I care about you," even if you're lying, they still want to believe it. That's the issue here. Is you've got a guy who says things that people want to hear, but he doesn't mean it at all. And unfortunately, people they're not keyed in well enough with discernment. There's a part of us that wants to believe. Please tell me what I want to hear. And if you say those words to people, even though they might have like something inside of them, because I'm sure that when you first met him, and even during all that time, you must have sensed something was just slightly off. You couldn't put your finger on it. Maybe you were giving him the benefit of the doubt, because that's what I asked Adam as well. I said, wasn't there something about, he's like, I figured him out like within 8 days, you know what I mean? But we were saying like, it's hard because you can't just burn a bridge, you know what I mean? Because you have a feeling about somebody. You have to actually let them start to, screw you over in a way, right? You can't just prejudge them and assume they're going to do that. And we're always going to be cautious when we're dealing with people like that, because we want, again, good people want to believe in the good of other people.
And the thing that really I learned through this is there were people that attended the first event. I had 2. I actually did a second one last year out of by popular demand. And the first one, there were people that even though they had a wonderful time and I treated them well and they say it and they know the things that happened, they just don't believe that he did those things, even though I told them, and they know that my experience with them, was the same and I was on the up and up. They haven't come out and said anything directly negative towards me per se, but they're still with him because many of them probably came with him or just believed in him, even though they knew some of the stuff that went on. It amazed me that they still chose him. I mean, I don't have anything to offer them, so maybe that's it. I don't know, but it's scary, and it's a lesson about how power in the wrong people's hands is very dangerous. I mean, some kind of power, manipulative power like this whole thing. And this is manipulative enough to where it could affect the presidency and affect, people are shooting. Well, we've seen it. We've had these Q followers shooting people up. We've seen these kind of things. It's very dangerous. And, I'm really glad that, you're supporting the coalition, which is 3 members. And we are a group of people that have rallied around to support them in whatever mechanisms they have and are going to do. I was at the Palin event. It was a wonderful, beautiful, amazing event, as were some of the other core members. And so that's why when you hear, Adam talking about YouTube fights and stuff, our group has been through it and we're like, hey, we've been there, done that. We don't need this. We have one goal, and this one goal is to kill Q. And that's it.
Absolutely.
And that's it. That's our goal.
It's a real benefit, though. I will say this, there is a side benefit to all this that I feel like I just met so many great people, and I feel like I've really been taken in, especially in the last couple of weeks. I've been around for quite a while, but I've only really known Ginger and kind of gotten to know a couple of people, but for the most part, until this broke. But just the outpouring of love and support I felt personally, and I'm honored. I'm honored that Adam would take time out of his day to come onto a little scope where 31 people are watching it live, because he probably knows I really enjoy his company, and I just think that's an amazing thing, and it says a lot. And it's been great getting to know you, and Smooch had me on his show. And so I'm just really thankful. But I kind of wanted to just say a little bit about, and I don't know if you're a Christian or not, but I wanted to just read this one thing.
Yeah, feel free. No,
and I'm gonna put it in and why I think work or things the way they are today. Okay, so basically this is from 2 Timothy 31. All right, this know also that in the last days perilous times shall come, for men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affections, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high-minded, lovers of pleasure more than lovers of God. And I know it's maybe that doesn't ring out quite as well as I thought.
No, it did. No, I'm absorbing it as you're reading it.
I guess the line for me is, for men shall be lovers of their own selves more than lovers of God. You know what I mean? Like that we, how do I explain this? That a certain person, like Praying Medic, I'm finding that I'm finding more and more of these kinds of people. And for people like us, the family, it's you know what I mean? Like there's a clear division being sort of drawn. I see, like this war is spiritual. You know what I mean? Like you've got good. Again, I keep coming back to the same thing: good guys and bad guys. You got guys that are willing to do things for everybody else, for the betterment of mankind. For whether your motivation is we want to get Trump reelected because we believe that he's the right man for the job and he's good for our country, so we're willing to sacrifice and we're protective of him and we want to take out QAnon, right? Or if we're talking about guys like Praying Medic, where they just give in, you know what I mean? They give over to selfishness, to desire, to steal money from people, to take advantage of people because they're users. They're not givers, they're users, they're takers, right?
And I will tell you, Glenn and Adam, and people say, Glenn could be abrasive. I guess Glenn is just a great, loyal person. I mean, he'll tell you if I'm having a bad day, stay away from me. You want to stay away from him on that day. Like he'll tell me, he'll say on the show, don't tick me off today because I'm not in a good mood, right? Because I ate something bad or whatever it is. But when I had some issues over this first event, which I will not go into, Glenn was there. He called me. He was checking on me. He was always emailing. Same with Adam. I mean, Adam per se, Adam is like you're saying, you would expect that. But Glenn is just as loyal and just as dedicated and is a really good person as many in our group are. And
so what you're trying to say to me is Glenn really he has that rough exterior, but he has a nice soft belly. Is that what you're trying to say?
yes, he doesn't like to admit it. I have come to know Glenn in that way. Like Glenn says, he likes to be a guy that chills out. He said this with Stefango and talks and hangs out. That's really who he is. But if you're going to attack him, his credibility, his friends, he is going to go to war and he's going to crush you until you are gone. And that is who he is as well. So that crossover is for him. He really doesn't want to do that. But if you're going to push him and keep pushing and pushing and pushing, he will. And he's like, okay, fine. This is what you want. Then this is what you're going to get. And that's who he is. And he's not ever said anything about it. So all the people have constantly picked fights with us. He's asked people, I even asked people, a year ago, leave us alone, leave the coalition alone. Just let them do things for the president. But they can't let it go. They can't. They can't let it go for all of the above reasons. And there's a huge jealousy factor and all the other things. But,
Good.
I'm glad we got to talk. I'm glad I got to meet new people. I totally support those guys. Know that I've got their backs. They've known me. And I really appreciate someone new coming out and saying, I'm proud if people call me a little MAGA coalition shill, like I get that in my in my Twitter. I get DMs. You're just a shill. It's like, okay, great. I'm proud of it. I'll wear that. I should make a little stamp and like put it on my shirt. MAGA coalition.
Just change your name on your profile to Jen Shill in quote Luvalatte.
Luvalatte. Yes, Luvalatte, because I love lattes. Everyone knows this about me.
There you go, Luvalatte.
Yeah.
Right. Jen Shill Luvalatte.
Exactly.
Well, for now, I think I'm just gonna be a Q slayer, and I'm just digging it. I know we're in a fight, but I don't know why. But I'm really enjoying. I'm having a great time. I'm having a great time being in the fight. I think we all need purpose, and when you find a place that you feel like you fit in, it's a joy. I mean, I've spent a lot of time. I've been sick as a dog this week, but I don't think I've ever scoped this much in my entire life. As a matter of fact, I know I have.
I was surprised you were coming on tonight. I'm not Tuesday, Thursdays. And I told you Periscope had me blocked. I was like, what the heck? I don't even know this person. I'm following you on Twitter for a while. So what's funny is I was thinking that you would not be scoping because you needed rest. And then I think it was the other night I saw that you scoped and I listened to the replay and then you were on tonight. I'm like, this guy needs some good-hearted sleep. And here it is. What is it? Well, you're my time. So it's probably 1 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's 1
It's easier. This is what I tell. This is my joke, Spy. This is what I say. This is the great time to live. They always joke about us living on the left coast, right? So This is a great time to live on the left coast, because the left coast, we're not up all night while these guys are scoping until 3:30.
Yeah, we're up till 1 o'clock.
Exactly.
In the morning, and it's 4 o'clock.
Exactly. So all our friends on the East Coast are like, "Can we do this stuff earlier, guys?" Because these things go, and we're like, "Oh, what? It's only 12 a.m."
Right.
And I'll give.
But then we have fam, but we have a lot of fam that's on this side, and everybody on this side, the left coast, and we all know that.
Yes.
That Glenn, and I bet you Glenn is still in the room. I have a feeling he's probably still listening, even though I said go get some sleep. But these guys don't sleep. I don't know what's going on. Like I sleep 4 hours a night. Basically, Glenn and Adam get 4 hours a night sleep, whereas somebody like Ginger, well, she's studying.
Yes.
She's got to get her sleep, right? But for me, my kids are my dogs.
I have one dog.
I can get to bed at 3 o'clock and get up at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm fine. I'm ready to go. And if I need a little nap, I'll make time for that too. But just for now, like I said, I feel energized, and for me, as I said on the Smooch Panda show, and I'll keep saying this over and over again, I have been fighting this for so long now, and right now, just in this last 18, 19 days, I've seen so much movement, and I just feel like I have to do everything I can now. We all have to push. We have to do things, even if it's a little bit out of our comfort zone,
Exactly.
and it takes up more of our time. This is the fight. If there's ever going to be a fight to be in, this is the fight, and we got to join together, and we have got to take these guys out, and we got to do it as a cohesive unit. And so, if I gotta give up some of my free time or some of my health, I'm going to do it, because it's this. I don't think we're ever going to get a chance like this again, honestly. And I don't want people to just start slacking off. I
I
think
agree.
if I,
I thought your message
yeah,
on Smooch's show was spot on, because even today, because I have a job where I can't always be on my phone during the middle of the day just based on what I do. And I was checking, I was trying to retweet, I was doing stuff. I didn't create any new tweets because I couldn't, but I was trying to retweet, re-go through things. And then when I'm off, I'm like tweeting and, I'm checking other timelines and checking things to see what's going on. And I try to make a point of it. And, whether it means I didn't plan on coming on your show tonight, I was just going to listen in. And one of the nights when you didn't have like a big, the main lineup calling in, I've called into Glenn. Glenn knows me. I used to do a lot of California shows and stuff for the election here last year. And, I called into those shows quite a bit and have chatted, but, I know you don't know me, so I wasn't just going to call into your show and just start yakking on, your show. So I really appreciate you giving me a platform. And
well, I don't want to cut you off, but I do want to say this. I think tonight's scope was really important because, again, having you on with Glenn, I think a lot of people are going to be re-listening to the scope because there's so much information there, and you were a member, you were part of it, you have intimate knowledge, and so having the both of you on together was really important. And I just want to give a quick shout out. I think DeFango jumped into the room. If that's you, DeFango, say, "Hey, buddy." Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
no,
off, but
DeFango.
you're important. Yeah, you're an important person. You what you did today. I believe people. This is going to be a much watched scope. Trust me, I really believe that.
Well,
And I think you were just as important to the storytelling tonight as Adam was.
yeah, because they didn't even know. What's funny is they didn't even know all the stuff that had happened until I had debriefed them, months later. And I never told them half of it, just like they never told me half of it.
Right, and as you were saying, you were on the Smooch Panda show, but that was a different thing because you were. It was so fresh, right? And you didn't have all the details, so it was more of
Yes.
an emotional
Well,
thing.
and
Whereas,
we were being attacked, and then I had had enough of the lies and the slander of not just the event, but everything that went into it, all the people that I had supported financially to help come out. There was a slew, slide I'm not even going to go into. Just Adam mentioned a handful of them, and it's so overwhelming to think when I think back about it, all the people that were converging on me at one time and on that situation. And I just tried to handle it, the best way I could. And the show went on. We had a great time. And that's what I told the guys. I said, if it comes down to it, I'm fine with releasing photos of not people that were at the event, but candidates. There's a great photo of all of the candidates on stage, the parties. People know that we're there. We've had two different events now. The second event was, I think, even better than the first event for many different reasons. They both had their different quirks and stuff, but I just think that I've just tried to do something for the president. And that's what my fight was. What are you people doing? Nothing.
well, I'm sad that you had to go through that, and I think what makes me even sadder is the fact that part of what was probably a pretty decent family was split apart, and one side weaponized those people
Yes.
and shot them like darts at you. And I think that's the point that hurts the most is people you formerly probably
Yep.
had some pretty decent relationships with. They pick, when you're getting attacked by somebody you don't know, you don't care. But when it's somebody you love, or somebody you have kind of a relationship with, and you've developed, and you have these things in common, that's when it really hurts. Especially like for me, I know that that's been my experience. It's always the ones that are close. What they say, that old expression, you always hurt the ones you love, right?
Yes, exactly. And
because who cares if somebody comes on and calls you a shill or a Mossad agent? It's like, yeah, whatever.
It's so funny. I laugh about it. And the funny thing is that, in the attacks, though, it's made us stronger, right? We've broken off more and more peaceful, I call it, floating matter that was just like not bonded super well. And then what's left has just formed this huge cohesion around our friends and the people that we've known have been trusted. And those are the people that are persistent. As Smooches says, we're not huge in numbers, but we're big at heart. And so that's where I think what differentiates us is like, yeah. And then when people see the heart and they see the real, somebody like you and even other people, they're like, hey, maybe like a DeFango, these guys are just trying to do good things, He's got a new audience that knows this is a LARP and the whole thing. Let's just support him, And so
absolutely.
Then when Adam and Glenn said, hey, we need your backup, we need you guys to retweet, we need this, a lot of our fam just stepped up. And even if it's only 3-4 times a day, they're doing it because, unlike these other grifters, our fam actually has jobs.
And while we're talking about people like DeFango, I'd just like to take this opportunity to tell you, if you're listening to this scope on replay, please head on over to DeFango TV, head on over to Merlin DeFango, and be sure to join him, to sub to his channel, like, subscribe, and share it. Isaac Green, I want to give a shout out to guys like David Seaman, all these people that have been stepping up that are part of the family. And if you don't think you're a big part of this family because you don't have a platform and you haven't been doing it as long as like DeFango, well, look at me. Who knew who I was? And yet I am talking to Adam for 3 hours at a time. So it doesn't really matter. Just do whatever you feel like you can do, and God will put you in that spot where you're supposed to be. And if that's just taking the time to retweet something, right, or to try to talk to somebody and help to talk them off the ledge, well, maybe that's your gift.
And I will just say, too, is that the coalition has never asked for any of us, any of the fam, for money. You never see them shilling. Glenn has a thing at the top, visit us for videos or information. For information, visit MAGAcoalition.com. He has his website. Never once. Right. I have known these guys before there was a coalition. Adam had such a hard time. People in the chat would put up his PayPal and his thing, and he would say, no, don't do that, don't do that. He's never been that kind of person. And so, if when I say to support them, they're not asking. All they're saying is go visit us, check us out, see what we're about, subscribe and like. That's what they're asking us to do. And maybe retweet a little bit if you feel like it.
Right. And I think, I think if we can first off, target number one, get rid of QAnon. That's our focus. Keep pumping and hitting that. But I'm looking down the road and I'm seeing if we can devastate this group of grifters, if we can knock down a few of these pegs, and we can minimize this scourge that has come across our country known as QAnon, I still believe that there's time for a group like the MAGA Coalition to have a big impact on the 2020 election. So we want to keep that in the forefront of our mind, that what we're doing now is going to pay dividends off down the road. And we're not here looking for cash. We're doing it because we care about this we care about this country. We've made some good friends. We've made some good connections, and we're supporting our family members because this is a family. So just keep that in mind. There is light at the end of the tunnel. So pick up your swords and fight.
And I will be the first in line to support my friends in the fight to take down Q, but to help the president. I've tried in my own way by incorporating fam with political stuff to help the president, and that's the best that I can. That's all that anybody's ever asked of. That's all they've ever asked. That's all we've ever asked. And honestly, like I said, Spy, my life has changed for the better knowing these people. Even
Absolutely.
given all the nasty, I wouldn't trade it in. I would not trade it in one bit. These are the most loyal, dedicated, great people. They care about the country. I know they care about me. And they've just been phenomenal. And I've met a lot of great people through this. And as someone that was not part of the coalition, but was attacked multiple times through this and drawn through because of that, I could have easily just walked away and said, oh, forget this, screw this, I'm done. I try to do something good, which is but a lot of people don't have heart. I know those guys have heart, and group has great heart. And I think that that's what we have to offer. And Lord.
Hey, come on board, everybody.
Exactly.
We're not that bad. We're really not that bad. I know that maybe some of you out there support QAnon, but honestly, we got the truth on our side here, and we're not bad people, and we'll welcome you to the family. If you just hear us out, just look at the evidence that we're offering, and just realize, look, we're not. And I just want to say hi to Glenn, who just came in.
Glenn just came in. I didn't see him.
Yeah.
Well, it is 4:30 their time. He doesn't know we've been talking about him with Adam for 3 hours or something.
Something like that. Yeah, something like that.
So, I just want to say thank you. I know it's late for you, for everybody, and I'm glad that Adam asked me to come on. I wasn't planning on it, but I think it was, there are new people. I think that's the one thing our group loses sight of, is that we've been in it for, through this, so we kind of know this. People don't have all those pieces, and they're like, what the heck? What? Why is this going?
That's the thing. When you guys were talking, all I can think in my head is, this scope, people are going to learn much about the history, and they're going to learn a lot about praying medic, their motivation, why they are the way they. And I think that's super important. So I'm so thankful you came on today. Onto my little tiny periscope, but I've learned so much from every one, guys. I feel like every time I have these opportunities, I get a little bit more information. So thank you for that.
Sure. Well, I will hang up and let you close out your show. And I just want to say thank you, and I'm sure we'll talk again. And I'll be visiting.